So my university is Rowan University. We're in New Jersey, which is between New York and Washington, D.C. So on the next slide, I will show you exactly where we are. So that puts us on the map. And my background is in chemical engineering, but about 8 years ago, I transitioned over to engineering education, both with my research and my department affiliation. So I started a new department here at Rowan, and it's called Experiential Engineering Education, and that's now my home. This is just a little bit about me. These pictures are getting a little old, but they're very special to me. So I love to travel. I love adventures. I love sports, and I love to eat, and I particularly like Indian cuisine and spicy food. So I am very happy that we have 6 assistants working with us for this module. So they'll be assigned to different sections of the course, and they will be working alongside you as you work through the module for the next couple of weeks, interacting with the discussion sessions, the online discussion questions, as well as giving you feedback on the assignments. Does everyone have the ability to speak? Is this like a regular meeting, or because I'd like to give the assistants a chance to say hello.
Yeah. If anybody is there, any of these 6 people are there, just say hello.
Just jump in. Yeah,
Hi,
please.
ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello,
Hello.
ma'am.
Hi. Just
Hello,
say
ma'am.
your name.
Hello,
So
ma'am.
we know everybody.
These 6 people. One of the 6
Hello,
people.
ma'am.
Ma'am, hello, ma'am.
No,
Good
just
evening, ma'am.
Hello,
Hello,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Now, particularly these 6 people who are helping out, can you identify yourself? Keith, Jaymala, Lavina, Jean, Yogamina, Twinkle, and Roland. Are you here, anybody? I know Keith is here, right? Keith?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, Keith
Hi,
is here.
Keith.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So I'm basically the module lead for this particular course, and if you have any questions, you can direct these specifically to this particular module. You can direct it towards me.
Yeah.
We'll look into the smooth sailing of this module to Canvas. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Okay, go ahead, Stephanie. Yeah.
Okay, great. So hi, everybody. And thanks, everybody, for jumping in and saying hello. Okay, so this is just kind of an overview of the dynamic classroom module. So in week 1, we'll look at active learning in the classroom. Week 2, it will be hands-on session on designing active learning activities. And week 3 will focus on collaborative learning. We have some resources in Canvas, and so there's a lecture type presentation, a PowerPoint that provides some content, and there are some readings that are focused on active learning. There will be an interactive group discussion on the discussion boards, and that will focus on your concerns with active learning and how you might solve some of the problems that you anticipate. And then there's an assignment where you're going to first plan an active learning activity and then implement it in a course. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail at the end of the presentation. So first, let's just start with what we mean by active learning. So I'm kind of using this broad definition of active learning. So it's anything, it can be anything that's related to the course that gets all the students in the class to engage. They're required to do this. And it's really anything other than simply watching, listening, taking notes. So it's not passive. It's the students are actively involved in the learning process. And so with active learning, what happens is you shift the focus on what the instructor delivers in a traditional lecture to what the students should be able to do. And by being actively involved, that's a first step towards actually doing it. So we can kind of distill that down to something very simple. It's doing versus listening. Active learning is active. In this module, we're going to be focusing on a particular type of active learning as kind of a first step. And so we're going to be looking at very short activities that you can weave into a more traditional type of class. So these are activities that take like 3 to 5 minutes, not more than that, out of the class. And you get students actively engaged in the learning process. And you can repeat these activities a few times throughout a class. These activities should be carefully structured. It's not just spontaneously asking students if they have a question. You think about the activity in advance, design it, and plan how much time to spend on it and what the students are going to do. So it's designed with intention. And so what you're doing is basically stopping the lecture and getting students to engage. And this results in increased learning. So there's been a lot of research around active learning, and all forms of active learning have the potential to increase student learning. So this shows what I was talking about with the sort of the broad definition of active learning. So in the broad definition, it can be any kind of activity or project that actively engages a student. So if you start on, this shows the spectrum of different types of activities. So some activities are a bit more controlled by the instructor, and that's how we start out. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this module. It's breaking up your lecture and doing activities within a lecture. So these are short activities. They're designed by you, and so it's pretty much controlled by the instructor. And then as you go towards the right in the spectrum, you gradually get to like more open-ended problems that are less defined by the instructor. And as the problems get more authentic and bigger and more complicated, the problems are driving the course, and they become very open-ended, and the students and they become longer and more complex, and the students are engaged in those activities. So it's a spectrum. And as you try active learning, I would encourage you to start with something small. So start on the left-hand side of the spectrum if active learning is new to you. So you'll start with something that's very carefully designed and short. And then as you get more comfortable with that and you see how it engages students, and I think you'll like the dynamic that it creates, and you'll be happy with the student learning, then you'll be ready to step a little bit towards the right and gradually work your way towards bigger types of active learning activities. So we're starting with the ones, again, that are short, and you weave it into a lecture. So let's just take a little pause here and reflect. We'll take about 45 seconds. And I want you to think about what's your biggest concern about engaging students actively in the learning process in your class. And I bet you're going to come up with a lot of ideas. So I think we're going to have people put their ideas in the chat box instead of doing the raised hand. So think about your concerns and go ahead and put them in the chat.
Stephanie, I think they can raise their hand and we can discuss it right here.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought we were going to avoid that. That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
if you raise your hands,
absolutely.
I will be the monitor. I will control the process so that we start with Abha. Quick comment, Abha.
Yeah, sir, my attention is completely on the discussion that whatever we have done in the last class, and if I'll give them the homework to come before in the class, that 15 minutes they need to prepare and come in the class. So we can discuss regarding the upcoming topic and the previous
Abha,
topic.
the question is, what is your biggest concern about engaging students in the actively in the learning classroom? Make it short. Okay.
Yeah,
not how you do it.
Giving them an assignment
What is your
previously
concern?
and ask them to do that
No,
work
what is
in
your
the class.
concern? I mean, you can ask them to do all those things. What is your
What is
concern?
the difficulty you're facing?
Right.
Abha, what is the difficulty that you're facing in getting
Let us read our responses that have
Getting
come.
attention of all the student.
Correct. Okay, that's good. So let's go to Sagar next.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, if the lecture hour is of 2 hours, session is of 2 hours, it will be difficult to give attention on each and every student.
Okay, fine. Sunil, come in.
Mhm.
My biggest concern will be their grasping, whether they are understanding and learning or not.
Okay, all right. Venkatesan?
Making
Venkatesan?
attention is a very much difficult to us, sir.
Okay. Gopika, come in.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
So when we ask these students personally only, they'll interact and they say whether they understood the topic or not. That's the basic problem that I think
Okay.
concerns me.
Arun Kumar?
Yes, sir. Reducing the distraction and aligning them to focus a particular topic, sir.
Okay. Sri Ramurthy?
Grabbing attention, sir. Grabbing attention.
Okay. Let's see. Who else is here? Ami Mehta?
Yes, this concentration is very less during the lecture.
Okay. Zenat?
Sir, students, especially in the maths class, they won't be responding fastly, sir. I
Okay.
face
So
that.
that should be enough, right?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have enough responses in the chat box also. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I think so. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, these are really good representative concerns. Okay, whoops. So that was our timer. So go on to the common concerns. So you all came up with really good concerns, and these are pretty typical of the kinds of concerns that faculty they express before they try active learning, and maybe that they experience the first couple of times that they try active learning. So it can take some practice if you're not familiar. But it doesn't take long, I think, to for it to go smoothly and to see the benefits of active learning. So here are some of the most common concerns that we hear. Student participation. Are the students going to participate in the exercise? You want them to do something, but are they going to do it or sit passively? Time management. And how do you find time to give up from your lecture in order to create time for the activity? The actual designing of the activities, they have to be designed thoughtfully. And so sometimes people have questions about that. How to deal with learning differences in the classroom as you do these activities. The noise level in the classroom, I didn't hear that one today, but that we usually hear that one. And how to implement active learning in large classes. So these are some, and you came up with more. And we're going to have lots of opportunities to talk about concerns, to talk about how you would address these things in your class. And then there are also some really good resources in the module where you'll have a chance to read tips on how to address these concerns. So this week's readings, there are 2 articles that talk about specific active learning activities. So it tells you exactly how to design these activities and how to implement them in your class. I'm going to discuss a few of them now, just to give you an idea of the variety and how you might implement them. But there's several more that you'll be exposed to in the module. In the second lecture, you'll have a hands-on session with other types of activities. And you'll have a fair spread to choose from. There's lots of different kinds of activities, and you just have to choose what's right for your course and which ones you feel most comfortable with. Okay, so this is the first example. We call it a visible quiz, and sometimes you'll hear it referred to as a concept question, or it's presented as a multiple choice question. So you present a question where you want students to think about a concept. It's not an involved calculation. They just have to think about a concept, and then you provide multiple choice answers. Students first think about their answer, and then you might have them discuss their answers in teams, and then have the teams indicate their response. So you can either use a personal response system on a phone or clickers, or you can just use a show of hands or something very simple, low tech, for students to indicate which response they want to go with. And in the end, then you're going to hear from the students what they think the right answer is, and then you'll explain the correct answer as you, the instructor, explains the right answer and addresses the misconceptions. If you have time during that exercise, it's kind of fun to have the teams debate and then vote again before you tell them the correct answer. It's nice for them to have the opportunity to convince each other that their answer is right. You can have a lot of fun with that. Okay, so I want to give you an example of how you would do this in your class. And so this here, you could prepare a simple slide. So here's the problem. When a hole is made in the side of a can holding water, water flows out and follows a parabolic trajectory. So what happens if the container is dropped in a free fall? How will the flow of water look? So answer 1 is it will diminish. Answer 2, it will stop altogether. 3, it will go out in a straight line. And 4, it will curve upward. Okay, so think about that for a minute. Choose your answer.
We can actually ask them to share also.
Yeah, I think let's just use a chat because we didn't set up a poll for this. Just put your answer in the chat. 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Just don't write the whole thing. Just say 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Good. Can we let's hear from someone who thinks it's number 4.
Okay, somebody who said number 4, unmute yourself. Who said number 4? Anybody who said number 4? Curve upwards. Are you willing to talk about why you said number 4?
Call on someone.
Okay, nobody's volunteering that.
I don't see the. Oh, okay. Now I can see the list.
Yeah. Okay, hands up. Anybody who wants to explain your answer? Anybody who wants to give us a reason why you picked one of the one that what you picked? Because the answer can't be random, right? You want to explain.
Yeah, because that's
why you picked it. It's not a lottery. It's not a random answer.
Or how about Kanmani?
Okay, see, Karumuri, what do you think? Which is the answer?
Over the period of time, water will flow out and it will get diminished, sir.
What did you answer? What? Okay, we'll go to Karumuri, Siramurthy, and then Kanmani after that. Okay, Siramurthy, what is it? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
1, sir.
Okay, why?
Over the period of time, the water will get emptied. It will get diminished.
Okay, Kanmani, Buddhi, what do you think?
Yes, sir. I'm not very sure, but I assume that since the can is going down, the movement of the flow will get disturbed, and it will appear that the water is it
Is
will
it
curve
1, 2,
up.
or 3, or 4?
Yeah, I selected 4.
4. Okay, curve upwards. Okay. Anybody else
I'm
has
not sure of the answer. I'm not
3
sure.
or 2? Anybody? Anybody wants to venture?
Sir, I think the
Abhijit, yeah, go ahead.
The right option will be I am not sure, but I think it's 2. Stop altogether.
2, stop altogether. Okay. Okay. Anybody? Some people have said 3. It'll go out straight. Okay, Jay, come in. Jay Fuletra. What is 1, 2, or 3, or 4?
Sir, it's 2, and because of the gravity.
Because of?
Gravity.
Gravity. Okay. All right. Okay. So you got a few samples, Stephanie, of answers.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome. So we have a lot of disagreement, and that's great. So in the class, I'd like to try to draw out a little bit more like why you picked the answer that you picked. And some people offered that and some people didn't. And that's fine. It would be easier in a class because it would be related to the content, actually. You know, you would have learned the concepts already. Right. So all right, so now we'll talk about the correct answer. So so the correct answer is 2. Everybody who answered 2, give yourselves a round of applause. Bravo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes. And the reason is that if you think about why the water flows out of the hole, it's flowing out because of hydrostatic pressure, and you need gravity for the hydrostatic pressure. So gravity is the key. It creates the weight of the water. But when the can's in free fall, the water becomes weightless. And so there's no pressure, there's no hydrostatic pressure at the bottom. So that water pressure is 0. And so no water is pushed out of the hole. The flow stops. Okay, so this is an example of a concept question. So I guess, you know, some of the important features are that it's a short question. It gets at a fundamental concept that you would be talking about in a class, like hydrostatic pressure. And students can come up with the answer without doing a calculation. So they can answer it fairly quickly. They'll get the answer right if they get the concept. And then you can have a healthy debate because there's going to be lots of disagreement. And that's what, it's really that disagreement that helps the concept stick. Students will remember that. So that's it. You know, the whole thing takes a couple of minutes. You just hear from a couple of students and to get a variety of responses and then talk about the right one. Okay. Here's another type of activity. And so this is a fun one. You can just have students get into groups or pairs and brainstorm a list. So you give them a couple minutes to brainstorm as many ideas as they can come up with. So let's say you're in a fluid mechanics class. You could ask the students, how would you go about measuring a liquid flow rate? And this would be at the beginning of the class when students have never measured a liquid flow rate before, and they have to think about, well, how could I do that? And so you just put them in teams and say, make a list, come up with as many ideas as possible. And then you go around the class and maybe you ask each team to share one idea. You don't take the time to have them read the whole list, just one idea that they want to share with the class. And then you summarize the list and kind of connect it to the topic, or in this case, you take their ideas and connect it to how flow rate is actually measured. So maybe students would come up with the idea of using a paddle wheel and say, yeah, you know, you could have a paddle wheel or some kind of like windmill underwater or something like that, and count the number of revolutions in a certain period of time. And so then you can connect that to the topic and how flow rate is measured in industry and talk about positive displacement and paddle wheel flow meters and that kind of thing.
Stephanie, can I just add something here a little bit?
Go ahead, Dina.
Sorry.
Yep.
I just want to tell the participants that even though the examples we have seen so far are from engineering, but please note that the same model is very viable for any discipline. It can be management, it can be law, it can be language teaching, it can be any. You'll have to be creative and create a question in the same format. So basically, it's the format that is important. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for emphasizing that. Okay. So the third activity, and this is the final one, the final example that I'll give today. So, you know, in our classes, it's really common to pause at some point in the lecture after you've done something and just stop and say, and ask the whole class, are there any questions? Right? And typically when you do that, most of the students will look at you with a blank look. There's like one or two students in the class who will always have a question. It's going to be the same ones every time. But the rest of the students will not have any questions. But they really do. They just don't ask the questions. So it's not a great way of getting students to really engage. So instead of just saying, are there any questions? Ask the students the question a little bit differently, and then have them write down their response. So ask which part of that concept or which part of the class is unclear to you. Write it down. Give them a minute to write it down, and then have them submit their responses. So you collect all the responses, and then after the class, this is not, you have to do it after the class, but after the class, you go through the responses and see if there are some patterns, you know, or is there like one question that you keep seeing over and over again? And if it's anything more than, you know, just like an isolated thing, you address it in the next class. And so what that does, it connects the two classes. It makes the students feel like it gives them a safe way to submit their questions, to think about what their questions are, and to know that they're going to get an answer. And then if you get a lot of different responses, you're not going to be able to address them all in the next class. You try to pick the most important ones, but make sure that you tell the students that if you didn't address their question, they should feel free to contact you or come to your office hours or however you like to address student questions. But this is a really great way to reassure students that their questions are going to be answered, and to remind them what you were talking about in the last class and connect it to the next class. So you can really do this at any time throughout the class. If you think that students might be confused about something, just have them write their questions down. Okay, we'll have a chance to model this a little bit later in the talk, in the webinar. So having mentioned 3 types of activities, the visible quiz, the brainstorming, and the minute paper, I'm just curious which one of those activities you're most excited to try in your class.
Okay.
So we're going to do a poll.
1, 2, or 3. Oh, we're
Yeah,
doing a
this
poll?
is a poll. This is
it's
a poll.
coming.
Krishna.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Sridhar is going to launch
Sridhar is
the
going to
poll.
do the poll. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, everybody. Jump in. Come on. A few more people come in. Come on, more people. We want more responses. We want more activity, right? We don't want people sleeping in the class. We still have 50 people
All
sleeping
right,
in the
100%.
class. 50 of you are sleeping still. 40 of you are sleeping still. Just get a few more seconds. Okay, end the poll. Fine. See the end the poll and share the results. Okay, so Stephanie, you can see the results, right?
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, we have a winner, and the winner is Visible Quiz.
Okay.
So yeah, people like those concept questions.
Yeah.
The other 2 are second winners. So everybody's a winner here.
Right.
Brainstorm a List had almost 30% of the votes, and Minute Paper was just behind that. So it sounds like people are pretty excited to try these things in their class. I hope you'll try them all and find what works best for you, or use all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I will go on now. Can I just close this window? Yeah, okay. Okay, so here are a few tips for success. And these are general, but they apply to, these are meant for people who are trying active learning, who may not have tried it before. If you're a little bit apprehensive about whether it's going to go well or not, these are some general tips for success. So the first thing is, if your students are really accustomed to lectures and that's all they've ever been exposed to, active learning is going to be different for them. They're not going to know what the expectations are, and they're not going to know why you're doing it. They might think that you're not doing your job because why are you making them come up with ideas? You should be telling them everything. So start by sharing your reasons for using active learning. So explain what your expectations are for their engagement. Tell them that you're doing this because this increases their learning. It's not as boring. it gives them a chance to be active, and they're going to learn more and they're going to remember it. It also helps them not just understand concepts, but be able to apply them because they're doing things actively in the class. The second thing is to plan your activities carefully. So, really be thoughtful about what questions you're going to ask for and what type of activity, what type of structure you're going to have for your active learning activity, how much time you're going to spend on it. The next one is manage your class time. So we're talking about things that you don't have to spend a lot of time on. Each activity should be just a couple of minutes. And and so when you do it, you'll have some, depending on what the activity is, you know, you're going to have some groups who finish very quickly. You're going to have some groups who can take a long time. You don't have to wait for all the groups to finish. So you have to find that sweet spot and stop the activity when the students are still engaged. So, you know, you stop it there. If you lose the students, if some students finish early and then they're not engaged anymore, then they're going to start doing other things and it's going to become disruptive. So you find that sweet spot, and you might feel like you're cutting it off a little bit early because some students aren't done yet, but that's okay. They still benefit from doing the activity. After you finish, ask students, call on students to share their response. So don't rely on volunteers. If you rely on volunteers, it's going to be the same people all the time. Some students will never volunteer. So try to call on different students each time, and students will know that there's a possibility that you're going to call on them. So they'll be prepared. They'll engage in the activity and they'll be better prepared to give an answer. And then the final one is really a note of encouragement. If you don't get 100% engagement from all the students in the class, it does not mean that you have failed. First of all, it takes a little practice, and you will see the engagement increasing as you practice, and as students get used to what the expectations are. But there still could be a couple of students in the class who don't engage. And as long as they're not being disruptive, there's really no harm in that. If you're engaging most of the students, you're succeeding. We get a lot of questions about active learning in large classes. So, you know, it's easy to imagine how you might do this with a small class, but can you do it with a large class? And the answer is yes, absolutely you can do this with a large class. So really, most of the activities, most of the types of active learning activities that you're going to be exposed to, you can implement those in a large class just the same as you can with a small class. The only thing is, in the end, you know, you'll only call on a few students in the class to get a variety of ideas and to hold them accountable. You won't be able to hear from all students because there's not time for that, but that's okay, as long as you call on different students each time. If you're doing activities where you walk around and you interact with teams or pairs of students when they're doing the activity, that can be challenging with a large class. So it helps if you can get a couple of assistants. Often undergraduate students are really fantastic for this if they've had the class before. If you can get a couple of assistants to help you walk around and talk to teams, that's great. But this is really more important when you're doing longer types of active learning activities where you have more time to interact with the students. I'd like you to take some time this week and watch this video that's recommended here. The video shows Professor Richard Felder. He's an expert in engineering pedagogy. It shows him teaching using active learning strategies in a large class. It's a very large chemical engineering class, but it could be any subject. And you'll see how he manages the room and how he manages the activity, how he manages his time throughout the activity, and how he engages students and gets different students to respond. So I highly recommend you watch that. It not only does it show how to implement active learning, but it shows it in a large class.
Yeah, Stephanie, the video is in their reading list in the classroom, and it's working. I checked it.
Good. Great. Okay, so these are some of the concerns that are addressed in this article called Navigating the Bumpy Road. And this is by Professor Richard Felder, the same professor I just mentioned. He's discussing the common apprehensions that faculty have when they start doing active learning in the class. He talks, so you're going to have a chance to think about this and to talk about your concerns during the discussion. But the ones that he cites are, if I spend time in class on active learning exercises, I'll never get through the syllabus. I'll never get through the course content. If I don't lecture, I'll lose control of the class. And if I assign readings, but many of my students don't read them, and those who do seem unable to understand the material independently. So you'll have a chance to think about those. You'll have a chance to talk about your own concerns. So examine these concerns. This is, for the discussion assignment. Give your personal perspective on them and make suggestions on how you would address them. And so we ask in the discussion, keep your responses focused and concise, and post your response by Monday, September 4th. Okay, and then the discussion closes on September 6th. Okay, Veena, do you have anything to add to that about the
not for graded discussion, but for the assignment? Yes, we have somebody who's Ramamurthy's raised his hand. Is there anything special?
Yes, madam.
Yeah.
Balancing these activities and completion of the syllabus is a big deal, madam, here. And we should be very creative enough to design the tasks, tasks and activities. They need brainstorming for the mentor also, who is guiding.
Yes, yes. Ramamurthy will be talking about this in the office hour and also in the subsequent lectures too. Because this is a big issue. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Yep, it's the #1 common concern, right?
Okay.
All right. All right, so Veena is going to help me talk about this assignment. So I'll run through it, and then after I describe it, Veena is going to talk about accommodating different schedules. So one of the readings that's posted in the module is idea paper number 53, and then there's the 10 in-class activities. So they present short active learning activities that you can weave into your lecture. In assignment 1, there's going to be 2 parts to it. So the first part is assignment 1A, and that focuses on planning the activity. So you're going to plan 2 in-class activities for your course, whatever course you're teaching. And then in assignment 1B, the second part of the assignment, you're going to implement the activities in your class and then submit a reflective report. Okay, so in one, for each activity, so you're going to do 2 activities, right? And so you're going to include the title of the lecture. So what's the actual topic that you're teaching that day? What's the type of activity? And why did you choose that particular type of activity? How much time are you going to spend on it? And then give a detailed plan, like what question are you going to ask? How are you going to break the students into groups? That sort of thing. And then that assignment is due on September 6th. So everybody will do that activity, which is, or that assignment, which is the planning phase. Okay. Then the second part of the assignment focuses on implementation, and that's assignment 1B. So in this part of the assignment, we know that not everyone, that all the teaching schedules are different. Okay. And we'll talk about that at the end, how to accommodate your particular teaching schedule. So in this part of the assignment, you're going to implement the activity that you planned. So for 2 activities. So after you try the activities in your class, you're going to write a reflective report. So you're going to think about like what went well and what could be improved next time. And then you're going to evaluate the success of the activity. and on a 1 to 10 scale and justify that. You know, why do you think it worked? How do you know it worked? You know, what are you looking for? And then did you have any challenges, any difficulties? It usually doesn't go perfectly the first time. So try to be honest with yourself about this, and think how you're going to change it and improve it next time. Okay. So that assignment is due on September 13th, 1 week later. And Veena, maybe you can talk
Yes.
about, the different schedules.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, I think this is little unusual for this module because these activities have to be actually practiced in class, and you have to submit a report on how effective they were or they were not. Now, the constraint we know everyone has is that some of you do not have students in class right now. Some of you have finished your semester, some of you are having final exams. So we have a way of doing that. The part 1, as Dr. Farrell said, assignment 1A is for everyone because it doesn't involve the students. It's your planning. So you will go ahead and plan both the activities. We can see a lot of hands going up, and we've kept time for that. And that's why Dr. Farrell has kept time for answering your questions. So assignment 1A is due at the end of this work week because it doesn't involve any students. Now, for the second part, if you do not have students, you need to inform Mr. Keith Fernandez. He's your lead module to say, sir, I am in section so-and-so. I do not have my students. So we will keep a record and your assignments will be accepted when your students are there. So we'll deal with those cases separately on individual basis, right? But if you have students in class, there are 2 weeks for it. If you have students in class, do the first assignment and do the second assignment and be done with it. Everybody has to do it. So whether you do it now or you do it later on, the only reason you will do later on is because you don't have students to actually practice in class. So I think now, Krishna, we can take some questions.
We have Sagar and then Sudarshan.
Okay.
Sagar,
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The activities must be of same course, the 2 activities?
Yeah, activities. No, sorry. You can use any of the activities. Dr. Farrell has demonstrated 3 activities. We'll be doing a lot more in lecture 2. But you also have 2 readings, idea paper 53, and you have the 10 in class. You can choose any of those activities. It doesn't matter.
I am teaching 2 courses. Should I
Yes.
select or plan the 2 activities for only 1 course, or I can select one?
No, you
activity
can do
only?
from any courses. You need to just you have to just give the lecture title.
One course, plan for 1 course and implement 1 course. That's all.
Okay.
No,
but
but
there's
there's 2 activities and they can.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Go ahead, Veena.
You can
Okay,
do it.
activities must be planned for only same course.
No, not necessary.
Can be different courses.
Yeah, you can do it anywhere. You can do it in any of the courses. If you're teaching 2 courses, you can do one activity in one and the other one in the other. Good, you'll get a better spread of experience.
Okay, one more question, ma'am. Recently, yesterday only I finished one activity. Can I submit the response report?
No, it's up to you. You have to first set the planning. Remember, part 1 is detailed planning. So you can't just submit for. It's up to you. Okay? Yeah.
Sudarshan.
Good evening, all of you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Sudarshan.
Ma'am, just I have one question regarding the activity. Actually, I am teaching a course that is estimation and quantity survey is there. That is basically part for the civil engineers. And that the difficulty is that I am having a class of 80 students in my class. And I am teaching to 3 sections differently. But the problem is that if I implement any of the activity, because in the estimation, basically, we have to take out the quantity for various different kinds of a drawing. So how can I do the activity as you said in this PPT? Because it is a bit difficult. 80 students.
Sudarshan,
yes,
we'll
ma'am.
talk about that in the office hour. Can you join on Saturday?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Yes,
Sure,
I will
I will
take this
join.
in detail. Please do
Okay.
join on Saturday. Yeah, that's a
Yes.
live question And that's a very nice live problem. So we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's
Thank
go
you.
to Ami.
Madam.
Ami next. Ami.
Thank you for that question.
Same question
Ami.
that we can plan activity in different classroom or not. So it is solved.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. She had the same question as
Okay, fine. That's
Sagar.
fine. Okay. Sujata. Come in, Sujata.
Sir, I have one course for 4 different people, sir. Each section having 60 about around students. So, how to handle activity in all different 4 sections of students?
Sujata, can we talk about this in the? I know you always attend the office hour, but can we talk about it on Saturday?
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Okay, great. Let's go to Ashok Kumar.
Sir, good evening, sir. Sir, actually, how we can make the individual differences? How we balance the individual differences for a large class, sir? Suppose single size is what I hear that book means single size cert is not fit for all. Suppose we have to split the class. Suppose above average, average, below average. If you are fully concentrating on below average students means even that above average students getting upset. So if we are handling the classes above average students level means that below average students, they are not involving at all. So how we can balance these things, madam?
A lot of the activities will involve teams or pairs of students, and so that really helps to provide support for students who need a little more time to understand concepts, and it also makes it safe for students who don't have confidence about their responses because they're responding for a team instead of individually. So it feels a little bit safer and they can take a little more risk in their responses. So I think, the variety of different types of activities kind of makes sure that there's something for everybody. And having those students who are maybe a little bit less academically prepared, this can be really advantageous for them because often they are more comfortable in an environment where they're more actively engaged and they can leverage their strengths. They're more comfortable doing and implementing sometimes than with the more theoretical content. So I think it will benefit those students, but the key really is to kind of mix it up, pair them with other students, and have a variety of activities.
Okay, ma'am. Suppose if I am preparing the activities means it should be common for all the students, ma'am, above average, below average, average students.
Yeah. Same activity for the
Yeah,
class.
Yes, ma'am. Why? Because means if you are making any separate activities for below average students means during that evaluation phases, just I am getting stuck.
There is no evaluation. See, that is the one thing. Active learning is different from collaborative learning in the sense that in active learning, you're not really evaluating anything. It's a kind of in-depth, it's a process for promoting in-depth learning. So you have taught in class, but you don't know how people have assimilated the information. It's very difficult to know. So these active learning, Stephanie, go ahead. You explain, please.
I think what you're saying is that's exactly it, Veena. The students are still learning during active learning. It's part of the learning process. You're not assessing.
Yeah, so don't, and your question is very valid for larger collaborative activities which will be taken up and which are where a proper formal assessment is involved, and there you need 2 types of assessment, individual assessment and team assessment, that will be taken care of in lecture 3. So don't worry about that, everything, but active learning is only 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, ma'am.
And its objective is only to, there are two main objectives. One is getting feedback, whether people have understood or not. And the second is to promote in-depth learning.
Yeah, okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think we still have time, Stephanie. Well planned.
Yeah.
We have another 4 minutes and then 1 minute will be for your last. Is that the last or you have anything else?
Madam.
I think that's, oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Yeah, when we give some programming assignments, we'll face the difficulty of plagiarism here. If we do small programs to write, a lot of plagiarism problems will arrive. And moreover, different sets we have to plan for different groups. That's a big issue.
Okay, go ahead.
So
You
with
want-
active learning, really, you're assigning, you give the activity to the whole class. Everybody does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's something very short. You pose a question and tell them what to do, and students will work in pairs or small teams to do that activity. So you're not planning, different activities for different students. Does that make sense? And the plagiarism thing, I think, regardless of what pedagogy you're using when students submit something that's plagiarized, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, but here I
But
think
active learning doesn't address that specifically.
And actually, can I add, active learning doesn't actually involve plagiarism in the sense that you're not worried, they're not submitting anything, they're not being evaluated.
Yeah.
So they're learning from each other. So if I'm working with Stephanie as she happens to be my neighbor, and I'm working in pairs with her, and I'm learning from her, and I'm the low performing student, and I don't understand, I look at this thing and she's explaining it to me, it's very useful. So active learning has a very different objective. And that is what you have to understand.
So that we can mingle students of different capabilities each other.
Don't worry about mixing people. No, they just have to work with their neighbors. You can't afford to have them moving around in the class.
No, that'll take too much time. Yeah.
That's too much time. They just have to work with whoever is sitting next to them. That's it. It's their luck. Yeah. We'll do work more on about it, because I think the concept of active learning, Stephanie, what do you think? I'm feeling that the more clarification is required for the concept of active learning, really.
Right.
Okay, so go ahead with the reflective report, please.
Okay, yeah, these are just some kind of suggestions on what we're looking for when you submit your reflective report after you implement the active learning in your class. So we really want you to look at it critically, look at it honestly. Did it go as planned? Did it meet your expectations, or what went really well? And what challenges did you encounter? How did you deal with them? And then after you have some time to think about the activity and how it went and implement it again, what are you going to change next time? Provide as much supporting evidence as possible. Like, how do you know the activity was successful? That here you're not assessing students, so you're not measuring their learning or anything, but you'll be able to tell what are you expecting from their behavior. You're looking for engagement. So talk about the student engagement. What did your classroom look like? And then what changes would you make to the activity next time you try it? So we're really not looking for like, yeah, it went perfectly. We're looking for like, what did you learn from this, and how are you going to develop?
Exactly.
These activities will help. These activities should help in engaging the students effectively. You mean to say, right?
Deeper understanding of what you're teaching.
Yeah, engaging and make the students understanding.
Yes. And then
that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah. Related to Keith is reminding me of something that I needed to announce. Stephanie, with you, if you'll allow me. Some of the faculty, I've already put it in the announcement though, Keith, just to tell you. But for the participants, if you have not seen the latest announcement, some of you have resubmitted your assignment in spite of getting a ME, which meets expectations, which is a pass grade. And the ways Keith has set up the software, it's going to discard the resubmission. Please do not resubmit if you have already got a passing grade. This is a pass-fail program, so it's not going to make any difference. So I know that pedagogically speaking, it will be very nice if somebody could review your assignment and see how you have resubmitted, but we really don't have the bandwidth for that. And the other thing is, you're all professors, and the fact that you understand from the comments what went wrong, and you're going to rectify that in in resubmission, the purpose is served. So please do not resubmit the assignments that you already have a passing grade in it. Keith, you want to say something?
Ma'am, it
Yes.
was regarding the geotagged photographs for assignment 1B.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Can you explain to them?
Yeah, so in the previous time when we did the evaluation, we found a lot of similarities and there was no concrete proof of evidence of activities being done. So as a solution, we encourage you to take a photograph of the activity that you are doing in the class. So make sure that it is geotagged. Basically, it includes the location as well as the date on which this activity was done, so that it will help us to do the evaluation in a much better way. So that's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yeah, Keith had this explained in the assignment also. It's explained in the, when you read the instructions for the assignments in Canvas, this is all mentioned there. Yeah, but good, thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, go ahead, Sudarshan.
Ma'am, I have also submitted one assignment and initially it was ME grade. And I think, ma'am, they have given some comment on that. And after the comment, again, I have resubmitted the assignment. And now it is again, I
Sudarshan,
think
no,
they have
please don't do
degraded.
that. Please don't do that, because we really do not have the possibility of, you have understood what went wrong, right? So that's
Yes,
good enough.
yes. Yeah.
That serves the
Yes.
purpose. And we are not dealing with small children or anybody who doesn't understand what the comments are.
No, I
So
got
the
it.
purpose
But
is
actually in the
served.
comment, it was the resubmit. Then I resubmitted again.
Okay. That
So I
may have.
resubmitted, then again comment came, again I gave, but grade,
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
getting the grade. I actually given the mail also to ma'am.
Okay. Sorry, that's our fault then. I
Excuse
think we
me,
should have said. Yeah,
In
Yes,
the
sorry.
interest of time, I know we're out of time.
Yeah,
But so
sorry.
I do want to, are you able to see anything on my screen?
No, we saw the slide and it disappeared.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened.
No, you have reached
so-
the last slide. Yeah. Now
Yeah.
it is better.
Okay, all right, yeah, I must have accidentally, I'm sorry. I must have
Make it
accidentally.
full screen, sir.
touched
Yeah,
it.
wonderful.
Okay, so I just want to wind up with a minute paper. So if you remember, that was the third type of active learning activity that we talked about. So my question to you is, what part of today's webinar is unclear to you? So I want you to think about that and just put your response in the chat before you leave the meeting. And we will capture the chat and then review the responses and address them in the next meeting or office hours. Okay, so while you think about that, I want to thank everyone for being with us today, and I look forward to working with you in this module. So, and please let me know what's unclear before you step off.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much for making the time for us and giving us such very insightful information about active learning. It was really absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Veena.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shweta.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
So I'm just, as we are closing, I'm saying if you have any doubts, please join. And if you have any specific questions, join the office hour on Saturday. And that's the whole time we have for working in detail about these things. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Siridhar.
Thank
Ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
madam.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, madam.
Good night, ma'am.
Good night.
Good night.
night.
Have a good evening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. Welcome. And we are going to start, as I mentioned, it's going to be a hands-on session. So what are we going to do? We are going to quickly review the last section, the muddiest point. And I just wanted to quickly go over active versus collaborative, because I think there was a little bit of confusion, or I got that impression. We also discussed this office hour, but since everybody's not in the office hour, I just want to quickly go over it. What are the challenges of implementing active learning and how do we manage them? We can talk about this after so we'll talk about the activities, each one of the activities. And then I want to spend some time on mentoring. I know all of you are involved in mentoring, but I'm not sure from the conversation I have with people and the feedback I have from many students, the mentoring is really a wishy-washy system or what we are doing. I don't know, I mean, it doesn't apply to everybody, but I'm just saying, I want to share some ideas on what mentoring actually is and how it should be done. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's begin. August 31st, Dr. Stephanie Farrell's lecture, muddiest point, good thing, nothing. Everything was clear. There's nothing for me to explain, but I did pick up some interesting questions. Ashok Nagarajan wanted to know how to manage individual differences, how to balance below average students. Ashok, it's very interesting that you asked this question. Your discussion this week is based on that. So it's very interesting. You preempted the whole thing, and maybe in the next class or next office hour, we can talk about what we have learned from the discussion this week. Indu asked how to do activities in a class of 120. You saw the video. Obviously, doing the activities in a class of 40 is a blessing. 60, 80, very, very comfortably doable. 120 is challenging, no doubt, but it doesn't mean that we don't have to do that. And then we can't just use that as a blanket excuse to say that, sorry, we can't do it. So after, in lecture 3, I want to ask, many of you would have done these activities and given us. So Indu, we will review this. We'll review this after you have conducted the activities and maybe come up with some more wisdom on the issues. Shaukat Ahmed said assignment 1B is unclear. Shaukat, we talked about it in our office hour. 1B is very simply when 1B is once you have completed your 2 activities, in 1A, you planned the activity, right? You don't need students for that. But 1B, you are actually implementing, taking a picture, giving it a geotag and submitting it. We don't need to talk about what the activity you did, how you did, whatever. You already planned that. We have understood which activity you have done. But what we need is your reflective report. Your reflective report is very, very important, which means the activity was a total disaster. It doesn't matter. You'll still get full marks for it. Nobody's looking for, wow, this was great experience. The students loved it. I loved it. No. If it actually happened, it has to be honest and candid. Because we are here learning. Your marks are not allocated on how successful the activity was, but how the experience was. Do you understand? Difference between the success of the activity and the success of the experience. Did we learn anything from it? Did we think that it didn't work because we didn't do a good job of it or whatever? What I need to do next time. Okay. I see that Ramamurthy has raised his hand. Ramamurthy, can we pen this? Is it very urgent? Because today we have a lot of things to do. But
please go ahead, madam. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
You can put,
yeah, I saw your question and I tried to respond to it. But okay, so let me first clarify. While we were talking and you were asking questions in last meeting, I got the impression that the word active learning itself is activities are not clear because you're still thinking in terms of making groups. You're still thinking of making heterogeneous groups, homogeneous groups, this, that, other. Now, let me tell you, active learning activities are something which we are doing in the class. Poll is an active learning activity. When we ask you to think for 45 seconds and give a response, that is an active learning activity. So no disturbance is designed for the content that is covered immediately or recently. Immediately means immediately in the class, lecture, and then activity followed by that, as we are doing in our lectures. Or you may want to do a poll or activity or little quiz that from the previous class, but not something which is done 3 weeks ago. Okay. So why? Because I will explain to you that active learning and collaborative learning are two different concepts, and they serve different purposes, equally important. It's not that active learning is more important than collaborative. Both these concepts, listen very carefully, are very important. Active learning is woven into your lecture, and the objective is in-depth learning. The objective is what I have taught, have you assimilated, or how I'm making you assimilate that point. Okay. So there's no evaluation, there's no grading, no nothing. Now, I will take this up again, a point related to that. Normally the reaction is, if it is not graded, people will not take it seriously. No, you can have a participation grade. Like, you can keep an eye on who is participating. You can say, okay, again, I don't know how much autonomy you have to design your own allocation of marks, but I know I have spoken to many faculty, and there are loopholes. There are things like, for example, attendance. You can link participation to attendance. Of course, if you're not in class, you're not doing anything. But also part of it, if attendance is 10 marks, you can keep in mind that you can tell your class that, okay, 7 marks are for being in class, 3 is how actively you're participating over the semester. But students are not moved, because if you start moving them, then you lose your lecture completely. So active learning is something which is woven in the lecture, very, very short. 5 to 8 minutes activities which are meant to fortify the meaning or the explanation of the concept that we are learning. Everybody is the same activity for everyone, and everyone is expected to take part in it. Okay, that's active learning. Collaborative learning requires formal teams. The purpose of collaborative learning is very, very important for undergraduate students, because there is a big preparation for their careers. They're team building, they're communicating with each other, they're making their points, they are arguing, they're discussing. So there's a component of leadership, there's a component of communication, there's a component of team building. So that takes longer. Okay, concepts such as the flipped class, because remember, the activity you're doing in class is a collaborative activity. That is 3 or 4 people, teacher is walking around, students have learned something, now they're working on activity, they're collaborating. Okay, PSIS is totally collaborative. Problem-based learning, project-based learning, they're all collaborative. Now, I hope the distinction between the two is very clear. Can I just have a quick comment on that?
Yes, madam.
So that I'm satisfied.
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So active learning is short, 5 to 8 minutes within the class. Objective is that, okay, I've understood what the teacher has told me. Archana Chaudhary, go ahead quickly.
Yeah, ma'am. I just wanted to ask that, can you give 1 or 2 examples of active learning?
I'm going to give you, beta. I'm going to
Okay,
give you
okay.
just now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. So collaborative, I told you, is like flipped class, PSIS, project-based learning, problem-based, because problem-based learning goes over several classes. Project-based learning can be for a whole semester, right? But active learning, we are going to be doing 10 activities today. That is what the session is about, okay? Okay, so active learning objective promotes in-depth learning. It also gives good feedback to the faculty. It helps students to self-evaluate their own learning. So I'm sitting here and I'm participating in an active learning. So let's say Sridhar gave a lecture, very nice lecture, and I understood something from it. And Indu understood something else, Ramamurthy understood something else. Now the three of us are working together on a very mini small problem. And then when Ramamurthy starts to explain, I'm saying, oh, I didn't think it was this. Wow, this is what it is. So I am learning. I am also self-evaluating my learning by I need to pay more attention to what I don't understand. And it, of course, controls the attention span, right? We talked about attention span quickly. People have a very limited 10 minutes. It starts waning, it starts going down. And then once you have an active learning activity, the attention span is rejuvenated, okay? So one of the big things about the active learning is also sustaining attention span. Okay. So challenges, okay, this is very important. So now the active learning concept are not from the air. I explained that to you in module 1 very clearly. Every single practice is based on a theoretical framework. And you're engineers, you know that. Management, everybody knows that. So when we do certain things, it is because of certain things, right? So knowledge is to be constructed. Knowledge cannot be accepted. We've said that Piaget told us, constructivism tells us that knowledge cannot be simply assimilated by students. Students have to work on it. Students have to create their own version of the knowledge that you have given. Peer instruction is very effective. Mazur, I told you, he's a professor of very celebrated professor of Harvard University, professor of physics. He came up with all these different activities that he actually doesn't teach at all. Only he has assignments that students do in class in groups, and that is how they learn. And then I don't know why this is recording my. So a brain processes information in small chunks. So we cannot go on for 50, 60 minutes. We need to stop in between and do some assignment. It's brain-based learning, emotion, strengthen learning. When students are allowed to talk in between, they're interacting with other people, they're happy. Instead of the student who has been sitting passively for listening for 55 minutes, blah, 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 blah. After 10 minutes, the attention is gone. So I'm just sitting and looking, and then people say they don't concentrate in class. They are distracted. But of course they will be distracted. That is how the brain is designed. Social interaction action promotes learning. Vygotsky, we did that in module 1. And active learning helps to sustain attention. We know that. Okay. I think I want to come back to this slide after we've done the activities, because these are real challenges. And there's no point in saying, no, anybody can do active learning. No, there are challenges. And we need to learn how to manage them. But let's do the activities first, and then we will come back to the challenges. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on the time. Now, these are some of the activities that we are mentioned in the write-ups that have been given, out of which I don't need to talk about class polls, you know. And by the way, in the technology module, which is after this module, you will learn how to do class polls using cell phones. Some of you are maybe already doing those things. Dr. Farrell talked about brainstorming. She talked about visual quiz or concept test. In your write-up, it is visual quiz. And she demonstrated what is minute paper. So I'm not talking about these. I'm going to start with summarizing. Summarizing is a very simple, quick activity But what we are doing is we are summarizing in class normally, right? We do something and then we summarize. We also summarize at the end. Now, supposing in a lecture, you have two concepts, part 1 and then part 2. Make sure the part 1 is summarized and then you move on to part 2. All this activity is saying is that instead of you summarizing, ask the student to summarize, students to summarize. Don't say raise your hands. Now, I think we have to also change our methodology. When you say like that, who would like to summarize the difference between active and cooperative learning, for example? You're not going to see any hands up. I always call by name. So I will just say, okay, whoever is here, I will just ask somebody. Remember, by now, I need to know the names of my students also. We've talked about that. With the intro cards, you will be able to do that. Or you can carry the intro card in your class. You can pull out an intro card. You have the name there. You have the photo there. And you can ask the person, can you summarize? Okay, no, I'm standing there looking at you. I can't summarize. Okay, can somebody else summarize? Now I'm going to ask 2 or 3 people. One person gets up, summarizes part of it. Anybody else can add something to it, like that. So that is a very simple activity, but very effective. Summarization is, you have learned, and I always link all the theories that I have included in this course. We've learned ARCS theory, ARCS model of motivation. ARCS model of motivation, the 4th component, satisfaction. Satisfaction comes when I know what I have done during these 60 minutes in class. What have I learned? Summarization helps you to bring out what you have learned. A very simple exercise you can do. You can stand outside the class as students are coming out. You can say, what did you learn today? And they say, we learned a lot of things. We talked about a lot of things. They will not be able to pinpoint what they have learned. But if you have done the summarizing exercise in class, they will know exactly, we learned advantages of this. We learned what is the difference between active and collaborative learning. And we learned what are the challenges of doing active learning, or whatever, right? Okay, this is very simple. We're not going to spend too much time on this one. Oh. I just keep getting muted for no reason. Okay. Think, pair, share. I think this is an activity many people are already using it because many of the workshops include this. It's very simple. See how it is, how old it is. This activity is almost 40, 50 years old. People have been using it very effectively. It takes only 3 to 5 minutes. Step 1, the teacher begins by raising a question based on the content taught. Let's say, for example, can active learning be implemented in large classes? And then you give 1 minute for every student to think individually. So 1 minute is for me to think, is it possible? I don't have, for example, I don't have a very large class. But will it be, can I implement in my large class? No, yes, whatever, what are the things? Now I pair up with the person sitting next to me. Remember, active learning, no movement. Never, there's no move, they should not, because if you start moving the students, the 3 minutes become 15 minutes or more even. Because every time they move, they have to say, hello, how are you? All kinds of things are there. So 1 minute for thinking individually. 1 minute for, now you can give them 2 minutes to discuss. What will happen? What will be the disadvantage? What will be the advantage of a large class? How can you make groups? Whatever. And then the teacher asks the pairs or threesomes randomly to give answers. Other groups can be asked to add radically different responses. If somebody says, yeah, it's very doable, and then somebody says, no, we think it is not at all possible because of these reasons, so you can add these. This is very pretty, very common. I'm sure many of you are already using this in class. Very effective. It's very effective. You've just taught, for example, you've taught a formula, or you taught an equation or something. Now, based on that, you can create a small question, and then you can even ask them to solve a question. There are many ways. You can have a half-solved equation or concept on the PowerPoint, and you can say, okay, how will you complete this? So 1 minute for you to think alone, and then you pair up now with whoever is sitting next to you, or three of you if you have a large class, and then work out how you will fill it out. So I may have a different answer. My right hand neighbor may have a different answer. Okay, Abhijit, quickly. Abhijit, can you unmute? Abhijit raised his hand. Anyway, we are going to be in any way doing a little thinking hands-on. So I'm going to give you a thing now. We are going to do this is hands-on. We can't pair up, but imagine that you're in a class. You're a student, imagine in class. I'm saying suggest one effective strategy for discouraging students from plagiarizing. 1 minute for you to think. Now you pair up with your right, left, or all three of you. You share the responses, and then I'm going to be asking 1 or 2 people to share the answers. Okay, Sujata. Sujata, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
If it is a plagiarist, we can reduce marks, no, ma'am. If it is unique, we can award 100% mark.
Yeah,
That
no,
is
I'm
a 10
not.
out of 10.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Whatever is the response, right? We will not be taking the responses for the questions that I'm putting, because these are just for you to think about it. We don't not even have a realistic situation. When I have smaller classes, then we do rooms, and then we can do in the rooms, we can do all these activities. But since we have a very large class, it's little difficult to do that. But you have understood, Sujata. You have understood how it is to be done? Sujata?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You've understood how the activity, okay. Okay. So now quickly, I want you to, everybody to think, can you do think, pair, share in your classes? So 30 seconds for the response, but we have 45 seconds for you to think about it. Think of any lecture that you have completed. Think of any question that you can do, right? Yeah, we have a couple of participants. Okay. I'm going to ask Sagar.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm teaching the hydraulic pneumatic course for this semester. And in this particular course, we have one topic called design of hydraulic circuits. Okay. If I give one particular problem statement to the student, and if I ask the student to think how to design the circuit, then student can work in a group of 4 people, and they can create the circuit. And later on, I can.
Sorry, Sagar, no 4 groups. There are no people in 4 groups. They cannot sit. You're sitting in a class. How will the 4 people participate properly? It has to be only 2 or 3.
Okay, I can restrict to 2, because in one bench 2 students we can sit. They can discuss among themselves, and they can draw the circuit. And later on, I can verify whose circuit is right, and those students' circuit is exact right. I will ask them to come on stage and explain the.
No. That will take 15 minutes, Sagar. That is what exactly I'm trying to tell you. If you tell them to come to board, and that is a good activity, but it's not unless you have the time for doing that.
Okay.
You understand? This is a very quick. You can ask them 3 reasons why the design is not working. So this design is wrong. Quickly, how will you complete this design? Give them an incomplete design and let them complete it.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Thank you for suggestion.
Okay. And okay, so let's see a couple more people. Vandana.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm teaching a subject based on Internet of Things. So the question I can propose that I will give a problem statement. Like students have to design a home automation system using IoT. So which sensors they will use for that system? So students can just list down the sensor names and they can just think pair with each other and they can discuss that I am using maybe a temperature sensor or maybe a light sensor and so on.
Okay, so maybe you'll ask them to list all the things that they can use and we'll
Yes.
see how many people have listed what. Yeah,
Yes.
something like that. Something like that is very, remember, time is of the essence. What Sagar suggested is an excellent activity, provided you have the time for doing that. But in lectures, if you start doing that, you will not finish anything. Remember, we also have the constraint for finishing the thing. So first part is fine. You can ask them to complete the circuit and then, but asking them to come and do it on the board is for another time. Okay, Sagar, that is what I wanted to tell you.
Yes,
Let's
ma'am.
see.
Thank you.
Okay, Kalyani, can I see? Kalyani, can you unmute?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Hello?
Okay, you raise your hand.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. If you're not, we'll tell you.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Okay, sorry. Let's have
Yes,
Deepa.
Ma'am, I
Let's have
recently implemented this activity in my class.
Deepa, you're breaking out a little bit.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. Deepa, you're breaking out.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. No, I think we'll have to get Deepa another time. So let me go to Gauri and then we'll move on to the next activity. I know I see many hands, but we will discuss. There are many activities that we have to discuss. Gauri, can you unmute and talk?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Actually, I'm handling machine learning, and in that, inductive-based learning would be a good activity-based learning because it is almost like students how they memorize some topics and everything. They'll just if the concept is taught to them, they'll just think and discuss with their neighbors and then share it, share the concept to everyone. So each one
Okay.
will have their own different methods of learning.
Yes, good. And you'll see suddenly there's been a lot of noise in class. It is okay. It's some noise is fine. But they are happy. They're working. So there is no disturbance in the class. Now immediately you need to come back to the next. This is a second most popular activity called Think Aloud Pair Problem Solving. It's also known as TAPS, TAPPS, TAPS. This is interesting. It takes a little longer than Think, Pair, Share. It's about 6 to 8 minutes. Create 2 problems with solutions, with a worked out solution. So here's the problem. Let's say this is a program they have to write. There is a problem and this is how this needs to be solved. So 2 problems. You have to have 2 problems, 2 solutions. So you will create handouts, one for the problem. So each pair gets, this is a paired activity. Each pair gets both, it gets 4 handouts. Problem 1, separate. Solution 1, separate. Problem 2, separate. Solution 2, separate. Okay. I know this needs a lot of photocopying, but that's okay. So create 2 problems with solutions. Create 2 handouts for each problem. One is describing the problem only, and second is solution with different steps. Okay. Now pair the students, ask them to take up problem 1 and choose a role. So one of them will be problem solver, one of them will be inquirer. Okay. That's the role. Who will prompt the so basically the problem solver will get the problem and inquirer will get the solution. So the problem solver is trying to solve the problem Now, if he's stuck, then the inquirer will give him some hint saying, can we do this? Do you think we can do this? Okay. So they will ask questions and the problem is solved out. In the second round, the inquirer becomes the problem solver and the problem solver becomes the inquirer. The roles are reversed. Okay. So basically 2 minutes for problem 1, 2 minutes for problem 2, and then you can ask randomly students what the experience was. I mean, they already have the answer. So there's no point in saying what was the answer. The answer is already given. But you can ask them, did they learn anything? You can ask any one of them, did they find it, how was the learning for that? Okay. So yeah, okay. So I think we can just give 45 seconds or 30 seconds to think, and you can raise your hands, please. If you think, okay, we already have 5 people raising their hand. I'm going to ask Rajni.
Good evening, ma'am. Yeah, good evening, ma'am. Yeah, we can do it, ma'am. Actually, we didn't do up to now this one, but we can do, I think so. Because I am taking now object-oriented programming through Java, which is actually a coding practice most of the time. So by giving a question like doing any problem solving, and one by one means the 2 people, they can share their experience with that. One can solve the question and one can raise the question how to solve or anything like that.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. It needs a little bit of preparation from your side.
Preparation. We have to do
from your side, but then it doesn't take it. Once you start doing these things, you find the result is so good that it's worthwhile. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So let's have Raghu.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
This is I have tried yesterday the same topic. I have given 2 questions. It is subject is signals and system, where I have given the topic of Fourier transformation of given signal, and one student I gave a Fourier transformation of one signal, and the other person I given the solution up to him, and while solving he was giving some hint to solve the question. Then when the other when inquirer is become a solver, that time I gave the question of inverse Fourier transformation.
Okay.
And so that I completed the topic like Fourier transformation and inverse Fourier transformation in the same class, and the student also responses was very good.
And so, what did the students did they enjoy? What did you think?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Because usually, like in conventional teaching, just I'll go through the derive the topic, but they enjoyed like it's like a just script type. The class was.
And it also
like
see that this particular activity helps in creating ownership of the content, because normally we are doing blah 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 blah. We are teaching. Now the students are taking ownership of learning themselves between the 2 of them. You have provided all the material, but they are learning how to solve the issue.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yes,
So thank you. Anyone else wants to share an experience? Otherwise, we'll go on. We have a lot of activities to cover. Ramagiri.
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I'm teaching database management systems, ma'am. In that, relational algebra is totally fitting with this type of activity, ma'am, because it involves in problem solving, ma'am.
Wonderful. So Parveen, try this in your class, and then we can have time to discuss this.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to go next to the next activity, and then if we have time, we will share our experiences. Okay, I'm a little worried about the time today. Okay. So the next one is very simple, designing questions. And I think Dr. Kanmani had already told us once that is what she is asking the students. During the lecture, complete a segment, and then end of the completion of the core concept, ask the students to form a team of they're just sitting informally, like they can be from bench 1 to bench 2, and then they can create one question. They're not really solving, they can just create a question. And you can say the prizes, the best question will be on the team. You can also do this, but I do this not in class. I do this as an outside class activity, which can also be very effective. And you can share 5 or 6 most interesting questions in class. And then have the best question. You can say, okay, will be in the exam in a different format. Sujata. Go ahead.
Ma'am, I have a question. Do we record all those as evidence for conducting this activity, ma'am? Because conducting activity will be it's not a time constraint actually, but preparing report for that and making an evidence for that, making a report for that will be a time consuming process, no, ma'am? How to address this issue?
Yeah, good question, Sujata. I think you'll have to choose the activity carefully, that you can do it quickly and you can record it also, because this is there are 2 different things happening here. One is your assignment and successful completion of the assignment. The other thing is learning how to do these activities in class. So pick my suggestion is pick the activity which is easier to record. That's what I would say. But all these activities are very, very useful. Kanmani, do you want to add your experience? Can you share your experience?
Madam.
Yes, hi.
This is Ramurthy, madam.
Yes, Ramamurthy, go ahead.
Madam, we can have 3 to 4 volunteers in the class, and we can separate them from the class, and we can ask them to record. So 2 threads will happen. Once the one thread is for activity, and the other thread is for recording purpose.
Okay.
That will solve the previous question, whatever the other one has asked.
Okay, Sujata's question. Okay, good idea, Ramamurthy. So, Kanmani, you want to share your experience, because she has done this activity.
Yes, madam. One part is one part is asking the students to get a question, but sometimes in one of the internal assessments in the course, what I have been doing is 9 questions I ask and the students answer. The 10th question in the session, they have to frame their question and answer the question. So
themselves, they have to frame and then answer the question. Excellent.
And the assessment is based on the type of question and the correctness of the answer. So this is something I've been following for past few semesters.
Okay, thank you. So let's go this verbal quiz. This is very, very interesting. It takes longer. So I suggest that you do these activities just before the exam, when you're revising something. So this is a little bit of effort for the teacher's part also, but it's a great activity. Students love it. We saw the visual quiz that Dr. Stephanie Carroll talked about. This is verbal quiz. In this one, you will divide the class like this: large groups, random groups. So you will just you can say, okay, this part is group A, this part is group B, this part is group C, this part is group D. Only 4 groups. You will create 8 questions. 4 questions of medium difficulty and 4 questions of high difficulty. Okay. Now you divided the question. Now direct first question of the medium difficulty to group A. And if the group A, they have very little time. They have maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds to respond to it. If they can, anybody from the group can respond. So if they can respond correctly, they get 1 mark. Otherwise, the question goes to group B. But then group B, if group B answers, they get 1 point, but they also have their next question addressed to them. That is the best part. That is why we need 8 questions. Everybody must go first. Okay. So then they will get another question and they can have 2. This A can have 0 and they can have a score 2, like that. So move on. After you've done the round with the middle question, medium difficulty, We'll do now with the complex difficulty. And then the team that has the maximum score is the winner. Let me tell you, there are so much revision is going on. You can choose these 8 questions just before the exam, which are really very crucial for them. But you'll have to tell them to come prepared for this activity. Tell them we are going to have a competition tomorrow, revise everything and come. If it is a whole chapter, a whole unit, this is not for one lecture. This is for an entire unit or an entire chunk of the thing. Okay. So
Ma'am,
let's see.
I have one question here. Can the students make the questions a verbal quiz? Supposing if we say come prepared, so they can make for their own question and then can ask to others.
हाँ, ये भी हो सकता है. But then you want to keep control, because the idea is they may just ask a question which is they just want to be very difficult, and but when you do it, you will do it for an objective. You will do it properly, and maybe if you have time, next time you can ask them to do by themselves. Does it make sense?
Okay.
Because remember, all these activities we are not doing for fun. All these activities they're very highly researched activities, and they have been in use for the past 20 years here. We have been using them
Yes.
for
My
many,
idea
many
about
years.
is that my idea about this is that supposing if they are taking out the questions, they will be thoroughly reading the
Yes.
content.
I agree. I agree with that. But then also ask them a medium difficulty and high difficulty, so that they also understand that they don't want to just do something, they want to stump everybody.
Right.
You know,
Yes, madam.
students,
Yes, madam.
yeah,
That's correct.
students have that habit. They want to say, okay, I'm going to make such a difficult question, nobody will be able to answer. You know, that's not what we are trying to do here. Okay. And so I guess I think quickly we have, let me have your comments. If this is verbal quiz is doable, do you think can you visualize how it will happen in your class?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Sorry, let me just get some, let me get some, okay. Vijaya, quickly, but 30 seconds. Please.
Good evening, madam. Am I audible, madam?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello.
Don't worry about
Am I
yeah.
audible? Madam, this strategy I am going to following from past 15 years. It is a very successful method because I am dividing the 3 column students into the 3 different groups, and I am going to asking the questions and conducting the quiz. Just like finally we will announce which column is the winner for that activity. It is the most successful.
Wonderful, Vijay. So instinctively you're doing wonderful. That's amazing. Congratulations. Shefali?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. My question here is, if you divide the students into large groups, won't it be when you have like the good student in one of the groups, like they'll be
they will
answering
answer.
and the others will be just keeping quiet. So if I have a large group of 15 or so, if I have a class of 60, the 4 groups will be of 15 each.
15.
And then in 15 only, maybe there could be a group where all the 15 are not doing so good, and there could be a group
No,
where
Shefali, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But the objective here is not really because they have only 1 minute to process, right? So you can ask, you can make it the competition in such a way that you will ask anybody instead of their answering the question. The game is that they answer the question, but you can make it that, okay, I'm going to ask anyone from the group and that person should be able to answer. You can do that way. But the objective
So is it
here,
required to make large groups? Can we make small groups
नहीं,
instead?
small group में उतने ही आपको सवाल बनाने पड़ेंगे. You'll have to make so many questions.
So if the class is smaller, then the groups will also be smaller.
It's up to you. You can do that. You can do smaller also. But Shefali, the objective here is that they have come prepared. So first of all, they have revised. It is just before the exam or whatever, end of the unit. So you want to revise the whole unit. And then The idea is that other students are listening to the questions. They are understanding the answer, even if they are themselves not solving it.
Okay. Okay.
Some learning is happening.
Okay. I get that
Okay.
point.
Ha.
Right.
I
But
implemented this activity, ma'am. It was so effective.
Sorry?
I implemented this activity quiz, verbal quiz, ma'am. It was so effective.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. I know that's, but and the students will keep asking you, when are we having the next one? When are we having the next one? Because they love competition, they love this kind of thing. But I like what Shafali has pointed out. Maybe we make it tougher by saying, I'm going to ask any one of the group to answer. Then everybody will pay attention, and then the group will be, the pressure will be there for them to answer.
Really good question by Shafali, madam.
Ma'am, can't hear you.
Muted. I don't know why every time I change the slide, something happens. Okay, so this is how we'll probably make the groups. We'll make 8 groups here. And to 6 or 8 groups, whatever way, depending on the size of the class, and create a case study, a printout. Same case study is given to each group. Remember, it's a short case study. It's not a whole 1 page that people will take 3 minutes to read it. No, a small story, something error, some error in the thing, okay? The groups are asked to identify errors or deficiencies. So it is a case study about a failed project. Something wrong. Something like, for example, I'm giving a very silly example is, okay, I baked a cake and it flopped. It didn't rise at all. What could be, I mean, what should be I doing next time? So they have to find out, maybe you didn't do this, maybe you didn't do that. I mean, I'm just giving a very silly example, but you can give a project that has failed and how will they fix it? So first they have to find the error, then only they can fix it, right? So the groups are asked to identify errors, deficiency leading to failure of the project. A time limit is set depending on the complexity of the project. At the end of the stipulated time, the group is provided with the solution. And now the groups are asked to evaluate themselves. And you can say, okay, grade yourself out of 5. And then don't worry, not everybody will grade themselves 5. Students are very, very honest, and they like that. Say, okay, there are points for honesty, okay? And then they can fix the solution, right? So I think Sujata has her hand up. Sujata?
Ma'am, I'm not able to correlate this activity to my course.
Okay. So what is the course?
Operating system, ma'am.
Oh, I think you should have a lot of things that on this situation where operating system doesn't work.
Oh, fine, ma'am. Okay.
Anything. These are I picked them. There are many more activities, but I picked these 10 because I thought these are enough for us, and we can just rotate them. Don't always make it a pattern. So we'll talk about that a little later. And it's similar to that is problem solving. I have not have a slide for it. In the problem solving, it is you give a problem and they say, how will you, what is the solution for this? Here, they are not detecting the error. They are basically finding a different solution. Now, the trick in the problem solving activities, it has to be an open-ended problem. So let me explain what is an open-ended problem and closed-ending problem. Can anybody respond to that? Open-ended? Open-ended is which has many solutions, many ways of doing it, or many possible solutions.
Not only one unique solution, ma'am. There are solutions are many.
Yeah, same thing we say or closed for a closed end question and open-ended question. The closed end question has a response in yes or no, and open-ended will be needs your opinion and needs your ideology and your explanation. So open-ended problem has to be open-ended. So somebody will take this path, somebody will take this path, somebody might take this path, but not too many. So you will know. Okay. So now, do you think we can do this activity, critical thinking activity? I think for engineering, this should be, and you are preparing them for life also. Okay. Anybody who's raised their hand? Let me see. Oh, a lot of people. Okay, Rajni.
Yes, ma'am, you can do it this one because ours is a programming language subject. Can give some coding questions and find out the errors in that one. We can do it.
Rajni, try it in your class. Try it in your class and see how it works.
Definitely.
Okay? You can make 3 people work. Make 3 people work on each problem. See, person in the center, right and left. Okay. Bhanu. Bhanu.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Bhanu.
I'm actually teaching law students. So while applying this critical thinking exercise, I thought them while teaching them case laws, we can give them the wrong judgment and then ask them why this judgment has been given. What was the error in this particular judgment?
Of course. Or
taking it
judgment, or you can also give a defense and say what are the loopholes, what are the missing components in the defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm sorry, I want to do the second part, which is very important for you, and we are all involved in it. And we want to talk about mentoring. And I want to thank Keith Fernandez for bringing this up. Keith, I know you are here, and I would you like to introduce the topic, Keith?
Good evening, ma'am. Good morning. So this topic basically came up in our internal meetings, and I think it is something that really concerns most of us as educators. One of the things is mentoring. With respect to mentoring, we are following a textbook process where we collect students' records. We just collect their marks, attendance, convey their information to their parents. So that is, I feel, it is my personal opinion, is very limited mentoring that we are going to do. I mean, the mentoring process should be overall development of the student in terms of understanding what the areas where the student is lacking and how it can be effectively addressed. Maybe having in one-to-one meetings with them, getting to know them better, finding out what are their interests. So this is something which was, I think, bothering us for a long time, and we wanted to bring this particular topic, mentoring, into this course so that a small portion of will be addressed. So I thank you, ma'am, for bringing this up, and I think
thank you.
Good addition.
Thank you. Now, and the thing is, we have a very nice. I like the concept that in most colleges are following that there are mentors that mentor 20 students throughout the 4 years. I love that idea of the mentoring throughout the 4 years. But when I'm told what they are doing, that is not mentoring. Getting records and passing them on to the parents and doing that is not mentoring at all. So mentoring is defined as a structured process for supporting your mentee's academic and emotional needs by developing a nurturing relationship. Okay, and I'm told most of the mentors have a monthly meeting or bi-monthly meeting. I don't know, whatever the frequency is. They have a meeting with all 20 people. Nobody's going to speak. That is not mentoring at all. So mentoring means you need to have one-on-one relationship with each of your mentees. Now, that's not a tall order. You have ways of finding it. And that is what we wanted to address today. The main objective of the mentor is to help the mentee achieve their goals And I'm going to share 6 strategies with you today that you can take a photo of that slide and maybe use it in your next meeting. The process is equally rewarding for the mentor in the terms of human interaction and professional. I can tell you from my experience, guys, I've been teaching for 35 years. I have such wonderful relationship with my mentees, I should say. They're like my, I mean, I can, in the middle of the night, I can call them and I can say, I need this, or, you know, or they can call me and they say, how can we do this? Or very often, just like Keith said, ma'am, can you just talk about this? This is very important. It's a big problem for all of us. So basically, it's such a wonderful relationship. So it's very rewarding for me. All the time that I can spend on this is precious. Okay, so what are the strategies? First strategy is help the mentees to identify their own goals. So next time when you have a meeting, ask them to write down 3 goals that they have in life. Maybe one is to complete the course with the A, or what CGPA or whatever, B, get a good job, whatever they have to do. Or I want to do this, I want to be a good scientist, or I want to be a good programmer, or I want to be an innovator, I want to be an entrepreneur, whatever. What are their goals? So once you have the goals, then only you can help them. Now, supposing one of your mentees said that I want to focus, once I finish, I want to focus on robotics. I want to create a robo that is this. Okay. Now, in your town, there is a conference going on robotics, right? Your school is not participating, but you can tell, hey, Keith, you mentioned that you're interested in robotics. Should we go there, or do you want to go there? If I'm interested, I will go with you. But if it's not my topic and I'm not interested, that's different. I'm not saying you should go with all mentees to these conferences, but I'm just saying that treat them as adults. So from what I hear from the feedback from the faculty, they're treating them like school children. Unka record lo, unke parents ko batao, complain karo. It's like a PTA meeting. Your students are adults. We have to give them adults. So first thing, ask your mentees to identify their own 3 goals so that you can help them. Next is set up an open communication process. I know you have a monthly meeting or 2 monthly meeting, but have an open communication process with each one of them. You can have a group, WhatsApp group, but you can also have a separate way of speaking to one of them, each one of them. After they have set up their goals, you can, now you have a good talking point. So what are you doing about it? So you want to set up your own company. Have you read this article? How have you done? So the whole process of look at the definition. Mentees is defined as a structured process for supporting mentees' academic and emotional needs by developing a nurturing relationship. Emotional needs are equally important. So I can, one of my mentees, for example, said he wants to be an entrepreneur. And then he can say, ma'am, I want to be an entrepreneur, but so you can now say, okay, what are the difficulties? What is your plan? Say, I don't have any money. So then we can start looking for somewhere where we can get some money from, or which are the people that support venture, who are the venture capitalists that may be interested in supporting your seed project or whatever it is. Build trust and confidentiality. So whatever each one tells you is confidential between you and me. Okay. Now, and the other thing is set expectations. Very important. Right in the beginning, you have to set, okay, I'm going to be doing this, but that's all I can do. You have to find out this, you have to do this. So share of responsibilities. I will guide you, and I will see if I can find any venture capitalists. I'm taking that same example in an extended form. I will see if anybody is interested, if I hear of anyone, or if I have any sources. I will ask, for example, if my my own son or my own nephew is a big shot in a company, I can ask them if the company supports that kind of thing or whatever, whichever way I can help you. But most of the work you have to do yourself. You create a proposal, I'll help you to refine it. Okay. Foster independent thinking and decision making. This is the key part that you have to mentor them for. Independent thinking and decision making. And always provide encouraging, constructive, and timely feedback. And teach mentees to value time. That's something we need to work in India a lot. If you have a meeting, everybody has to come in time. Collective time is wasted. So if in a meeting there are 8 people who are involved in a meeting and one person comes 15 minutes late, count the time of 8 people into 15. So much time is lost. So it's almost time. But Keith, can you jump? Do you want to jump in? But let me just do the discussion first and we'll come back. That's the last slide. So we have only discussion this week. We have no assignment. Please share your ideas about how you have been supporting low performing students. And that answers the question, one of the questions that was asked last week in the chat. To what extent are you satisfied with the results obtained? And what other strategies you would like? Hopefully you will see many other strategies during the discussion of how people are helping their low performing students. Okay, but we'll take up all this in the office hour. And by the way, one more thing. I have, please go through the announcement that I've put in the classroom about assignment 1A and 1B, 2A and 2B. So if you do not have students in class, you have to take the action which is mentioned there. Otherwise, we would not know who has students and who doesn't have students. It's your responsibility to inform Mr. Reddy. I've given the email address there that, sir, I will not have students in my class. And also tell us when the students will be there, because we do not know everybody's calendar. Okay, so please go through the assignment. But I'm going to go back. Quick word, Keith, you want to jump in any of these suggestions?
No, ma'am, I think they are well constructed. I think these 7 effective strategies will definitely help them. I have just one feedback with respect to assignments that have come. I started evaluating and I could see some of the assignments, specifically 2B. I'm assuming that many of you have not submitted 1B. Please make sure that you include the geotagged photographs of your classroom when this activity is being conducted. So that is one thing that I observed to all the assignments, that it has been missing in most of the submissions that have happened. That's it from my side, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are already 3 minutes over.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Madam.
If you have any very quick
you,
upper
ma'am.
level,
Thank you so much, ma'am.
yeah, please join me on Saturday for the office
Thank you,
hour.
madam.
We'll go through these again in detail. Varghese, please join the office hour.
Sure, madam.
Yes, because we want to go through and see how these activities can be used in the language learning class. So that's
Yes, madam.
useful.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. God bless.
Collaborative learning module. And this module essentially has these outcomes that you should be able to, as participants, you will be able to identify all possible formats of collaboration. And of course, with special reference to engineering classes, practice at least one form of collaborative activity and experience the discourse of cognition during the collaboration. So unless you practice collaboration in the classroom and otherwise, it's very difficult to experience how the cognition is taking place or is building within the learners. We will have to learn to design practices that make collaboration effective for knowledge building, and also how to assess, because essentially the assessment of collaborative activities tends to be quite different than your other activities or other usual classroom activities where you teach and the students listen, and all that stuff. So let's focus on these 4 objectives or outcomes, you can say. Identify possible formats of collaboration, practice at least one of them. You learn to design practices for collaboration, and also how to assess the collaborative activities. But before we dwell upon the nitty-gritties of collaboration, let's once again look at the required skills of 21st century learners. So you all know that in today's world, problem solving is not enough, but complex problem solving is the need of the day. You used to introduce thinking amongst your learners, but now critical thinking is important. Similarly, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence. Rather than just the intelligence building, you need to focus more on emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making under complex situations, service orientation. Negotiation is coming up fast, emerging fast as one of the most desired skills of 21st century learners. And of course, cognitive flexibility. So you need to be able to learn in various ways, and you should be able to appreciate how the cognition in variety of different ways is taking place amongst your learners. So these are the required skills of 21st century learners. Think about it, keep them in mind, and let's proceed. Also, this is something which is not unfamiliar to most of you, in fact, all of you. These we have been talking again and again. Engineering graduate attributes as defined by Abbott or NBA. These are A to K attributes. And there is a reason that I have color-coded them, all these blocks, these 11 blocks into different colors. And I'm not going to repeat and read out from it, but look at how the attributes, how the graduate attributes or engineering graduate attributes have been defined in a particular way for the 21st century learners. And coming up is a poll question, but for that, I definitely highly recommend all of you to please look at once again very carefully on these A to K attributes and then answer the first poll question, which is coming up now. So can we put it up, the first question?
And the poll, I think it's time, or come on, everybody. We have only 68% who have responded, but you have to do it quickly, okay? So I think we have, Archana, your results are here.
Yes.
Can you see them?
Yes. So, so 44% of you say that at least 6 of them, 45% at least 4 of them, and 10% at least 2 of them, and 1% at least 1 of them. So look again at this A to K attributes, and clearly D and G are the ones which very clearly define that you need to have collaborative skills in order to communicate effectively and function on multidisciplinary teams. However, most of you are, in fact, all of you are right when you say that to achieve or to have these A to K attributes, engineering graduate attributes in your learners, you know, all of them require collaboration. Okay. Yes. So the question was 21st skills century, how many of these skills require collaboration? And many of you said at least 6 of them. There is no right and wrong answer to this particular question, because the way you are interpreting as a faculty, as a facilitator, to inculcate those A to K attributes in your learners, the answer would definitely differ. Okay, nonetheless, let's look at this key question. And the key question here is, how do we inculcate the graduate attributes and 21st century skills in our students while delivering the content? Now, for most of us in the classes, the first and foremost requirement is to deliver the content. That's the foremost objective, and let's not forget that. Yet, we want to inculcate all those A to K graduate attributes and 21st century skills in our students. So delivering the content as a prime objective, right or wrong it may be, and also to inculcate the graduate attributes and 21st century skills in our students. How do we do that? Both. And there's the time to reflect. So Veena, would you like to take this up?
No, go ahead. But
Okay.
then they're used to it. They're used to it.
Okay, they're used to
So
it.
there are 45 seconds for one strategy that you use to include development of POs. I mean, that is what is commonly called the graduate attributes normally while teaching, or graduate attributes or any of the skills. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to the?
I
Okay,
think-
I'll keep the. So raise your hands, please, and then we can get the responses. Okay, let's start with Vandana.
Hello,
Vandana,
ma'am.
please.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, ma'am, regarding development of one of the strategy to include the development of PO. So, I'm taking the example of a PO as a multidisciplinary approach. So, as I'm teaching a subject IoT, so that IoT has the application in the field of electronics, telecommunication, mechanical, as well as computer and IT also. So, going for the group discussion sort of activities, which will develop this kind of a PO development amongst the students.
Okay. Good, Vandana. Good. Thank you. Let's go with Kalyani. We have 30
Hello, ma'am.
seconds for the response. Yeah.
Hello.
So we can include many people. Yeah.
Ma'am, I use it generally project-based learning because projects can be done in collaboration with 3 or 4 members as a team. So it covers project management, communication skills, and
Yeah, it
usage
covers
of
a lot
modern
of-
tools. So it covers approximately 80% of the POs.
Okay. Wonderful. Arun Kumar.
Yes, ma'am. I will take the students to the laboratory and I will ask them to simulate the things, ma'am. So when they simulate, they will use modern tools. So it will become suitable for a PO5 modern tool usage.
So, Dr. Mantri, you will comment on them at the end after we take 5 or 6, and then Suhas Chauhan. Yes.
Ma'am, I'll be including the PO12, that is the lifelong learning, because I'll be teaching PPL subject or any system programming subject. At that time, if you are mapping any technical content with a real-time example, at that time, student can grasp the content or they can solve their doubt in a very efficient manner.
Okay. I'm going to let Dr. Mantri comment on all these. Mamta, and then we'll go to Indu. Mamta?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I want to tell you that it should be outcome-based projects. So in outcomes, publications or
Mamta, what are you doing? What are you doing? The question was, what are you doing to include development of POs in your courses?
Yeah, I'm doing that project-based outcomes should be there, so that publications or IPR or other things should be included, or they can publish, students can publish the papers.
Okay.
In the project.
Okay. I think Indu will be the last.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll have to come
I
back for
believe
that.
in, I have done, I have taught design thinking, and their critical thinking is very much required. So doing the activities, I emphasized on the critical thinking, and then the project-based activities were done at that time.
Okay.
Madam,
Go ahead.
Madam, in several POs I have seen in several colleges, inclusion of professional ethics. How to include these and what response we have to give, how to include these is my doubt, madam, here. On strategy.
Very good. Yes, good question. This will be answered later on, and there's a whole, how could say, lot of content on this in effective assessment module. we will
Cyber
address this.
cybersecurity is the subject. What professional ethics we can include?
Yeah. So definitely let's talk about this in the office hour, because this is not in this preview of this.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay.
Because he was this.
Unless Dr. Mantri wants to. So I think we'll stop here now, and we'll do the next round, other people. So Dr. Mantri, over to you. If you want to comment on.
Thank you for all those responses. And one thing you can say common in all the responses is there were some.
Spoon flex
it was project-based learning. Many of you mentioned projects. One of you also mentioned about design thinking. One of you also mentioned about activities in the class. So the common thing is that none of you were talking about the traditional teaching strategies in the classes to have to achieve all these outcomes, the program outcomes that the ABET or NB or the accreditation agencies are talking about. So which means that active learning, collaboration, whether it is by projects or it is by doing a group assignment activity, or it is about doing activities in the class, whether it is about design thinking, all of it are included or are used to develop the POs and also achieve program outcomes. So with those thoughts in mind, let's look at how collaborative activities or collaboration per se can affect or develop these graduate attributes into your students. Collaborative learning essentially is a teaching. Mute yourselves.
Yes, please mute yourselves because this is disturbing. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So collaborative learning essentially is a teaching and learning strategy where students are grouped together to work on a particular assignment, a topic, to maximize their own and each other's learning. So it is about sharing ideas, it is about interaction, it is about brainstorming a particular topic or a problem at hand, and you are doing collaboration, you are discussing, and a community is getting built. So these are the essential attributes of any collaborative learning that is taking place within or outside your classes. There are 2-3 important things here. It's not about, we are not talking about in collaborative learning about only learning. You can see a very judicious choice of the word maximize the learning, whether it is one's own learning or it is team members learning. Let's see what are the attributes or what are the methods which are taken care in collaborative learning. So it involves instruction that requires students and the teams to accomplish a common goal under conditions which include, now all these points which are mentioned here, the 4 points are very important. So using collaboration, you can ensure individual accountability. And remember, these are somewhere or the other related to the 11 graduate attributes that we were talking about a few slides back. Positive interdependence, appropriate use of collaborative skills, and group processing of the information. So individual accountability, whenever you are designing a collaborative task, don't think that only a group outcome or achievement is important. It is also important to ensure and see and assess how the individuals are being made accountable for the task which has been given to the group as a collaborative task. Positive interdependence, there is dependence, but there is positive interdependence amongst each other. It's different than copying from each other. There's difference. So this is what is the art of designing a collaborative task. And group processing of the information is very important. If any one of them is not taking place, your collaborative task is not complete. So while working as a team, the students would plan and manage, they would collect and correlate, discuss and interpret. So everywhere you will see there is an and. So it's not only about collection of data, but also establishing a correlation between different data points. It's not only about discussion, but also interpreting. Remember, we talked about group processing of information. So interpretation is as important. Drawing of inferences is as important as discussion which is taking place. It's not only about planning, but managing the whole task. And it's not only about analyzing, but applying the learned concepts to the problem at hand. And finally, they need to create and present. So this is the beauty of the collaborative task, provided the collaborative task is designed and executed to take care of all these aspects which are being shown here. So there are 6 clear advantages. It definitely results into high student achievements. It has been found in the theory and literature, in practice also, that it results in higher motivation, higher self-esteem. Besides, it enhances problem-solving techniques, inspires critical thinking. Of course, since the students are working collaboratively, it improves social interaction. It aids the development of self and group management skills. Communication, of course, it's a very important offshoot, and it fosters development of interpersonal relationships. Don't you think all of these are required in the 21st century graduates? Yes, they all are very important aspects. So in a collaborative learning, it's very important to know what are the phases of learning and what is being done by student and the tutor together. So while in the engagement phase, the students need to be excited about the collaborative task, while the tutor would inspire. In the exploration phase, the tutor would support, and of course, the students would explore. In the transformation phase, tutor would encourage and the student would create. Presentation, of course, they need applaud, and the tutor has to do that, and while the students are presenting. And finally, reflection is a very important phase of the whole collaborative task. And I'm sure in this whole IICP, there are a lot of times where the reflection wording is getting used. So also remember to encourage your students to reflect. It's very important. And you can see here the role of tutor and student merges. It is the same. While the tutor is also reviewing, the student is also reviewing, reflecting what has been learned, what has been done, how it has been executed, were there increase in emotional intelligence of the whole group, and so on and so forth. So remember these 5 phases. Collaborative task is never like today you give and tomorrow it will be done. It has to go through, and all the activities in the collaborative task need to be designed as a tutor to go through all these very important 5 phases of collaboration. Many a times this question is asked, that what is the difference or what are the commonalities between project and problem-based learning? So although many a times and most of the times and for all practical purposes, you can say that problem and project-based are same, yet there are commonalities and differences also. So in a project-based learning, a case-specific understanding is there in the students, and a case is presented, whether it is in the form of a project or a case. However, in case of problem-based, the problem takes the centerpiece. So problem and project may not always be the same. Sometimes in problem, the exploration phase requires solving an open-ended problem. And in project, it could be just a project at hand where the solution might already be available, and the students just need to build the project. So all of them, both of them have their commonalities, have their pros and cons, and outcomes that they are able to achieve these activities are quite similar yet different. The next question, big question, which is asked is, what is the difference between, collaborative and cooperative learning? Again, for all practical purposes, you can take collaboration and cooperation as similar. However, the theory does differentiate between both of them. just for the purpose of completion and for you to know, I have written some of the differences between collaboration and cooperation, but it's not important for you to go into the heart of what is collaboration, whether we are doing collaboration or cooperation. It's okay. For your classroom activities, cooperation can be taken as same as collaboration. This is very important. And this actually tells you about what kind of different contexts are there when you are doing a collaborative activity. So let's look at the learning context. So when you are designing a collaborative activity and when the collaboration is taking place within students, it could be as simple as perform a problem-solving task. It could be a project at hand. It could be simply learning a course material, or maybe simply follow a task, follow a course. All these are different contexts of learning in which you can design and your students can perform a collaborative task. In togetherness context, it could be a synchronous face-to-face kind of interaction, collaboration amongst your students, or it could be asynchronous, wherein the students may use a computer mediated kind of environment or a virtual environment or an augmented environment to collaborate together. So this is the togetherness context. And then in the situational context, even a small group for maybe two students from the same class, 3 students from the same class can collaborate on a small problem, or it could be a complete class doing a collaborative work. It could be a society, it could be a community, it could be projects across geographical boundaries. So it is very important for you to understand the difference between these contexts and on what scale of variety of scales in terms of learning you are planning your collaborative task. Because if you are planning it for a small group, collaborating for a smaller duration, the type of task, collaborative task would be different. But if you are designing it for a web-based large group collaborative for large durations, maybe for say 6 months, a capstone project is something when the students would have to collaborate for larger durations, as large as 6 months. And companies, multinational companies would collaborate for very large durations, maybe for 2 years, 3 years, wherein the employees would collaborate across geographical boundaries. So look at the variety of scales where a collaboration can take place. On in-class small group collaborative for small duration, this is the extreme left end. And on the right side, you can have web-based large groups collaborating for very long durations. So think about when you are designing your collaborative task for your classes. Think about all this, because all of them require different kind of planning. So the next question is, what are the types of in-class collaborative learning activities? So in terms of learning, we have already seen the continuum of learning. And in terms of collaborative learning activities within the class, so the context here we are taking as within the class. Remember the 3 contexts we were talking about? So here the togetherness context is within the class. Now on the extreme end, you have think, pair, share kind of activities, write, pair, share kind of activities, reciprocal teaching, think aloud, pair problem solving, which could be lasting for anywhere from 1 minute to say 5 minutes. And on the other hand, on the extreme right, you have complex, high risk, long duration collaborative learning techniques, which is the which is within the scope of this particular webinar and in this particular module on collaborative learning. So essentially, these terms have been picked up from the literature and from the practitioners, wherein they do these complex, high-risk, long-duration collaborative learning techniques, which are known as fishbowl debate, case study, and I'm sure many of you might already be practicing it in your classes. Group problem solving, learning together, jigsaw, TGT, TGAI, and so on and so forth. So let's look at from very small think, pair, share kind of activities to a case study kind of, or maybe a jigsaw kind of activity, which can last from anywhere from half an hour to say maybe 2 hours, or maybe if you are taking a larger complex task, you can still try to divide it in smaller collaborative tasks lasting for 2 hours in each class. That is also possible. So now that we know what are the collaborative activities that we are going to plan specifically for this module, some of the key questions that you need to definitely keep on mind are these. So many a times while designing complex activities, we tend to forget about learning outcomes of our course, and that is not good. So design your activities within the framework or within the learning outcomes of your course that you are teaching. Because if you go beyond, you will be able to achieve more, but then you will not be able to complete it. And your students would be kind of spread out and stuck up in different kinds of activities, and your learning outcomes of the course might not be achieved. And then for this particular collaborative activity, which learning outcome of all the learning outcomes of the course this activity is related to? How do you think you are going to introduce the activity? Remember the 5 phases of collaboration? The first one was engagement phase. And engagement happens where the tutor inspires and the student gets excited. So the introduction of the activity is very important, because you need to excite your students for a very different kind of collaborative activity that we are talking about. How will the groups be formed? What is your strategy on making the groups? And then how can the students' productivity be ensured? Because remember, we talked about positive interdependence. We also talked about how the students are going to plan and manage, collect and correlate. And all these are directly related to students' productivity. And what technology? Are you going to use only your traditional methods to assess the group work? That's not a good idea. Use technology. There are many technology tools available where you can use them to effectively manage the collaborative task within your class. And how to manage the group work. Finally, what is going to be the evaluation strategy? Don't leave it to the end of your collaborative task. Decide, answer all these questions right at the beginning when you are designing your collaborative activity. So let's take a walk through how this collaborative activity or collaboration that you are thinking is going to take place amongst your students, how you are going to walk them through. So first is forming teams. Many a times people tend to make homogeneous groups. There is another strategy of making heterogeneous groups. Think about what is going to be the best depending on the task that you have thought of giving to the students. Many a times people take the faculty members take pre-test to assess individual capabilities, and then heterogeneously place a mixed, they make mixed ability groups so that each of the groups, the strengths shine. And should you have 2-member, 3-member, 4-members teams? So it all depends upon what is the class strength that you are teaching, how many groups you can handle, what is the assistance that is available to you to handle such collaborative activities. Because usually collaborative activities also become very taxing and very demanding on the faculty member also. Then remember engagement and exploration phase of the collaboration. It's very important how and what is going to be your opening activity. So in the sense that the collaborative task, you need to make it very interesting for the students, because if they think that the problem at hand or the project at hand or the case at hand is not wide or open-ended enough for them to collaborate, they would just like to do their individual task and present you a solution individually. And that's not good, because for the collaboration to take place, your opening activity should be open-ended enough. And there should be enough in it so that the students collaborate. The interdependence and also maximizing the students' learning can take place only if collaboration takes place. And the collaboration can take place only if the opening activity is challenging enough. The task at hand is challenging enough. However, make sure that the time frame that you have in mind. So if it is a 2 hours activity, and if you ask them give them a very complex problem where they are motivated enough and they are driven enough to collaborate, but yet if it is not going to finish within the 2 hours time, it's of no use. The outcome will not be achieved. So think of the time frame, think of what can be a challenging problem. It could be a real life problem also, and it could be a very interesting reading for the students to sort of read it together, discuss, and then interpret, and then apply to the whatever case you have given to them, so that they can present a solution. How you are going to introduce the activity. So remember, once you have given them, or once you have told them what is the activity, you need to explain it. You need to clearly define what are the objectives. What is it that they are going to achieve at the end of the activity? If there are any procedures in mind, outline it. Tell it to them. Share it with them. If there is no such set procedure that you have in mind, give them, this is the framework, and you can take it up, and they can define their own procedures. If required, give examples, and please frame ground rules for group interaction. Okay, set time limits, provide prompt, task, or problem, and if they have any questions in mind, field them before. So all these, remember, the whole point of telling you all this, or walking you through this whole collaboration, is that you need to imagine, you need to preempt the whole collaboration taking place within your class and within your students in your mind. So you need to anticipate the questions that they can have and keep the answers ready. If they ask the questions and you go to find the answers yourself, the time is all lost. So it's very important. It's very precarious. It's very, I'm not saying it's very complex or difficult, but it's very important to think it through. What are the resources? The fourth important thing is, what are the resources that, because here in collaboration, collaborative activity, the responsibility of learning is slightly transferred to the students. Although in all kinds of tasks that you do, the responsibility of learning should lie with the students, but in collaboration specifically, when the responsibility is being transferred, you must keep all the resources handy, because this is something that they are going to look through. They are going to ask, they are going to find, they are going to look through. What are the resources? So keep them handy. When they ask them, provide it to them. It could be a reading, it could be a an experiment that you think that the students should do, and then only they will be able to find answer. Keep the experiment or the observation thing ready. Any open source material that you would like to have, keep its link ready. So if they ask, provide it to them. And then guiding and facilitating through the activity. This is very important. Many a times the faculty members think that we have given the collaborative task and now let them perform it through and I'm going to sit idle. No, you need to continuously take a walk through the class, watch if they are working towards their learning objectives or not. Is there a group where only a couple of students are working, the others are not working? So formulate fair share policies. And this all can be inbuilt in the assessment that you are planning. So I'll come at the end to the assessment slide also, and we'll try to relate how you can ensure positive interdependence, how you can ensure fair share policies by designing a smart assessment grid. And the assessments, of course, I've already talked about. It's very important. And assessment, instruction, and learning objectives are all interlinked. If your instruction changes from being a chalk and talk to a collaborative learning, the assessment has to change. And I'm going to give you some idea of how the assessments can be planned. So these are the steps. We've already talked about it: planning, conduction, and then review and reflect. These are the three very important aspects of collaborative learning activity. So for this particular module, we have these 4 options available for you. Either you can practice Jigsaw, or Team Games Tournament, or Students Team Achievement Division, or Team Achievement Individualization. So Jigsaw, TGT, STAD, and TAI, you can choose any one of them and practice in your class. So let's
Archana, can I just inform the participants that there's a write-up there in your class which talks about each of these 4 activities step by step. So whenever you choose whatever you want to choose for your assignment, look through the steps. Thank you.
Yeah. So the TAI has all these steps, and in that case, if everything is available in detail there, I may skip these steps and
take questions. Yes,
take questions. That is more important. But I'll yet still I would just walk it through.
Please do.
Yes. And now is the most important slide, which is the assessments. Now, I said that in collaboration, many a times we think that it is only the group achievement or the group outcome which is important. That's not the case. Even individual learning, individual outcome, individual process is as important as the collective one. So the assessments, when you design for collaborative work, it should be a weighted sum. Depending on what activity you are planning, it should be a weighted sum of these 4 components. Now, individual formative, let's call it X. Individual summative, let's call it Y. Collective formative, let's call it Z. And collective summative, let's call it T. Somebody's mic is on. Let's
please
kindly mute yourselves. And let's assume, let's say that the individual formative, that is the core, that is the X score, has a weightage W1, Y has a weightage W2, Z has a weightage W3, and T has a weightage W4. And I have given examples of all these kinds of assessments that you can plan. So for example, for individual formative, you can have an interim quiz. When you are walking through the class, you can observe each of the students, or you can have an interim peer evaluation on achievement of outcomes of the distributed work. Remember the fair share policy, who is going to do what? Let them maintain a ledger that for this particular collective task, the 4 team members, each one of them has been given this particular task. Let them decide it. You may not do it, but let the team decide, declare, and then each one of them should be assessed on the achievement of the outcomes of the distributed work. So let's call it, so if you have assigned say 10% of the total evaluation to X, then the individual score would become W1X. That is 10% of the total into X. Then the summative one. So individual reflection or report. So in addition to the collective report or the presentation that the group is going to make at the end of the collaborative work, you can also ask them to submit an individual reflection or a report. Now, individual reflection obviously cannot be a copy of each other, because reflection is something that is very particular, very different, or very peculiar to oneself. So when they are submitting the individual reflection, assess them on that. And let's assign a weightage of W2 to that. And similarly, there are many examples which I've given here for the collective formative, which could be an interim kind of a presentation that you can ask them to give, and summative, of course, at the end of it. And then you need to sum all of them up. So W1X plus W2Y plus W3Z plus W4T. This becomes an individual's score for collaborative work. So not only they will have to work for themselves to maximize the learning for oneself, but also for the group. Otherwise, the individual score will get affected. That's the smart work of the faculty member who is designing the collaborative task, to design the assessment rubric also smartly, but don't keep it secret. Share it with the students right at the beginning. And then you will see the difference, because it's a common saying that assessment drives learning. So if the assessment is designed smartly, if it is shared with the students in the beginning, and if your collaborative task that you have designed is challenging enough, I am sure the students are going to maximize their learning. And all those attributes that we have just discussed in the beginning of this presentation, why we are doing collaborative learning, why it is important to do collaborative learning, those attributes will be developed in your learners. So with that assessment, we have this now poll question 2, and let's reflect, take a pause and reflect. Can we flash the second poll question?
Sridhar, can we have the poll question, please?
No, I don't have this one.
Oh, we don't have this one.
Okay.
Okay, let them just because I think that Dr. Mantri is planning to have questions based on this only.
All right.
So go ahead and
sure.
They
So
can just
you can
post
reflect
it in the chat box. So most of them are saying 3, 2, option 2, keeping collaboration focused, and many of them are also saying 3. Archana, we can go back to designing, conducting 4 components of assessment.
Okay, so this is what is anticipated actually. So, but I am surprised that not many of you are saying designing the opening activity. While in my view, that is the most challenging task, because the first step when you take towards any task, that determines the outcome of that task. So you need to be very, very careful what activity as an opening thing, because if the engagement is not there, remember we use the word anchoring in any of the classes, anchoring the students' attention to what is the topic of today, what is the objective of today's lesson that we are going to present. So anchoring here in collaborative activity, the opening activity or the opening task is the anchor, which is going to fix and hook your students to the task and achieve the outcome. So each one of these is as important as the other, and you can also have other challenges also in front of you. So as I said earlier, and as you practice, many of you might have practiced also, collaborative designing collaborative activities is actually not a very easy task. So anticipated that each one of them will get equal weightage in the community here that we are addressing. So these are, I think, already posted, Veena. Are you?
Yes, they are posted.
Okay.
And do you want me to go through them quickly, and then you can take the questions, because I think they will have some questions.
Yeah.
So guys, you have one discussion 3, which is posted there, and that is about, can we go back? Okay. There is an article posted there. You need to read that, and then you need to answer the question. The 4 obstructions are mentioned. What are the 4 major obstructions in doing collaborative learning? And then you have to talk about your own experience. Basically, what recommendations do you make to follow? Did you face any other obstruction in addition to the 4 mentioned there? Your specific. So that will be very rich discussion. So we can go to the assignment. Assignment 2A is due September 20th. Without fail, everybody is to submit that, because it's a planning portion of your collaborative activity. Of course, before that, you'll need to go through the write-up, which gives you step-by-step everything, how it is to be done, each activity. And then you have to give the, so 2B, 2A, there is no problem. You don't need the students in class. But some of you may not have students in class for 2B. So far for assignment 1B, we have received only 8 requests for deferring the assignment. If you are not going to have students for this date in class, please contact Surendra Reddy and tell him, sir, I need to have my assignment submitted at that time, so that you do not get a 0 right now, okay? Because if we do not inform the assistant faculty, they don't know whether you have students or not. Okay, I don't want to take time on that. The other thing is that in the office hour, we'll be doing all these things again, as always. So if you have any doubts, please join the office hour on Saturday, the usual time. So Dr. Mantri, over to you. Please ask your questions. You can just unmute yourself and
yeah, now we are ready for questions. My presentation is already over.
Madam,
thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Please discuss on.
Ramamurthy, just go ahead.
Please discuss on Jigsaw and that other activity, madam, once again. If possible.
TAI, everything. Just go on the reading section, Ramamurthy.
Okay,
Just go to the write-up on 4 collaborative activities.
Okay, then.
Okay, because now otherwise you won't understand even if it is discussed now.
Okay.
You need to read them very carefully because they're not like active learning. These are a little more complicated and involve many steps. Okay.
Sure, madam. We'll go.
During discussions, we can we can display those slides of Jigsaw and all this. During discussion, let the discussions go on and the slides will be also there. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Its recording is always in your classroom, so you can review all this again. Because we are just short of time, so we thought we'll have questions. So please raise your hand if you have questions.
We'll go through the resources, madam, and we'll raise the questions during office hours.
No, that's okay. But now, if you have any questions for Dr. Mantri, which portion would you like her to talk more about?
Ma'am, can I ask you one question? Myself, Dr. Kore.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, all of you. So, actually, I am doing not such kind of activity. We have a class of 80, and I'm dividing this particular activity in 4 students. Okay. So I am giving a small assignment. I will first explain my problem. Based on that problem, I give solution. And once I clear the concept, then I am giving a small assignment in the class to solve it. So I am giving them a particular 15 minutes, 10 minutes of a time. Can we consider this as a collaborative learning again?
So, what's your name?
Sudarshan Kore.
Okay, Sudarshan ji, it's okay. I mean, collaboration, you must understand, collaboration is not only working together.
Okay.
It's not only working together. So, whenever collaboration is happening, I told you these are the 5 most important aspects of collaborative learning. So, it should be all of these. You need to give them a task which is challenging and complex enough.
Correct.
So that now, if you are giving them a 15 minutes assignment, it's okay to give. It's okay to give them a simple open and a simple closed-ended kind of a numerical to solve, and they can do it in their group, and then they can come up with a solution. But that's not collaboration. They are not planning and managing anything. They are not collecting and correlating anything.
Yes.
So these things are not there. So
one more thing, ma'am. Another thing, what I am doing currently now in the class, I'm again the same activity. The 4 students will be in the group, and I am giving individually a different kind of a problem to solve it. I am giving them a 1 week of a time. Also, I am providing the resources. So we have a good library again. We have a good online, offline resources in our institute. I'm giving them. After 1 week, they are submitting their this task particularly. And one by one, I'm checking. Means it is not like this they are submitting and just I am completing and giving the marks to them.
No, is it like in an individual task you are giving them?
No, in a group of 4.
In a group of 4. Yeah.
In a group of 4 you are giving them.
Yes.
But what kind of task? Can you tell me what kind of task?
Basically, I will shortly I will explain. My course is a quantity estimation basically. Okay. quantity estimation for all the construction projects. So I am giving a one task like you have to calculate the quantity for beam, column, then footing,
That's
then
good.
your
That's
walls.
good.
That's good.
That's good. So you are putting them in a real life situation.
Correct. Same.
You are breaking up the task, a complete task. So maybe it could be designing of a bridge. But then
Yes.
you are giving a group of students what will be the quantity in that particular, that lantern or that one, what is the quantity of material in that pillar or whatever that is, right?
Okay.
That's a good thing. That's the right thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yes.
I think I think if I may jump in, I think Dr. Mantri has explained it very well. Sudarshan, anything
ma'am.
that requires students to plan, interact, manage, but when in the previous example, I would say falls under active learning because you are giving them just an assignment to solve. You've given all the data. They're not doing any research. They're not discussing.
Nothing.
Yeah, you understand. So I think this is
Yes.
wonderfully explained by Dr. Mantri,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
anything that involves all these intricacies is collaborative, qualifies as collaborative. But actually, I think we've said that many times, everything is collaboration and everything is active. So it's
Yeah.
always very confusing to put them, but for the sake of learning, I think this is a wonderful explanation.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Ma'am,
Yeah, go ahead. Sujata, that's.
should we implement majority of the topics from each unit? So it is, as far as my observation is concerned, it is going to be a time consumption process for designing the activity as well as for the assessment of an activity. And how to address this issue, ma'am?
Are you asking that whole of the course needs to be done in a collaborative manner? Are you saying that?
In other perspective, how many topics could be in an activity out of entire unit?
Definitely what you are saying is correct, that to design and to execute and to assess a collaborative activity is a time consuming task. And that is why you need to look at this slide. Here I'm clearly mentioning what are the learning outcomes of your course, the first question, to which learning outcome of the particular group activities to be related to. So you can identify one learning outcome or maybe a part of that learning outcome, design a collaborative activity only for that, achieving that learning outcome. You need not to design the whole of the course as a collaborative activity course. You may do it also. I mean, I'm not saying it's difficult or I'm not saying it's not possible. It is possible. But to start with, you should have just one learning outcome, take a part of it, design a collaborative activity around it and do it. So maybe to start with, you can have just 2 hours of learning of collaborative activity. Once you master it, you can go to 2 classes of collaborative activity and so on and so forth. Increase it slowly.
Very good point. Sujata, you when you go through the 4 activities, you will see they're all to be done in class. In one class, you need one whole period for that. But that's a whole period for just doing the activity.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and do we have any other questions? We still have time.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
I have a question not related to the content, but regarding the submission of assignment. In our college, in the next 2 weeks, the exams are going on. So there will be no lecture will be conducted between that period. So how
IICP to know which college is going to have students at what time. That I keep saying that is one of the biggest constraints I have as the organizer, is because every college has a different schedule. So you let Surendra know, let Surendra know, you have his email in the announcement. Tell him, sir, I will not be able to submit my 2B on this date. I will submit it at this date. You are the boss.
Surendra has replied me, madam, that he has noted.
Okay, that's okay. Then you're in good shape. Okay, let's go to Abha. Abha, you raised your hand.
Good evening,
Yes.
ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, one doubt is there. If we are tying up with any company, like I'm teaching one ICT subject and half of the syllabus they are completing. So
have different, you can create learning outcomes of the portions in between.
So what you are saying, Abha, is this particular only the T score of it. The collective summative is something which is a prototype. But what about the other ones? The X, Y, Z?
Ma'am, we are divided it like a step by step. As we have a like conventional examination method, that sessional 1, sessional 2, and then we will conduct the lab exam, mid-sem lab exam. So in a place of writing that exam for sessional 1, we have conducted a quiz, as well as we have conducted a mid-sem lab exam also. So how much they have covered for their prototype, in that we have asked them. And for sessional 2, they have to follow the conventional idea to write the paper. So we will ask them small basic questions related to that subject, as well as their prototype.
No, but then this is all an individual thing, isn't it?
Yes,
Quiz is
ma'am.
also individual score or individual assessment, right? Similarly, individual report writing is also individual. So, so at every, if it is too individualistic, then collaboration will not take place. It will only take place at the end. And if it is too collaborative, then it is not individual learning that is taking place. So that is why you need to balance out at every step. What is collaboration?
Ma'am, we have divided the
So,
complete class stream.
Abha, can we discuss
Yes.
this in the office hour, please?
I
We'll
think
go into
Sure,
detail.
ma'am.
Sorry,
Yes,
because
yes,
there's
ma'am.
other
Surely,
people. Shaukat,
surely.
I'll take
I
your
can
Shaukat.